Well, money talks. That's the simple answer. Listen, Monsanto has captured the leadership of the Democratic Party. I mean, I know you followed that story with Hillary Clinton's relationship to the company, and all really a big part of the Democratic leadership actually had this very cozy relationship with Monsanto. So did the Republicans. I don't mean to say it was just the Democrats, but usually we think of the Democrats trying to protect our interests. This was just the opposite. Look, this is a company that colluded with government agency to hide scientific findings that should absolutely be illegal. But the part of the story that rarely garners any coverage is that it is illegal. Look, the DOJ has these facts. The DOJ could have issued subpoenas. They could have issued indictments in this case. And you watch, they won't do it. They may get a slap on the wrist in the form of a fine, but that's about all that's going to happen to Monsanto in this situation. We've seen it again and again and again. We've seen it with GMOs. We've seen it now. The only reason GMOs ever had to be invented was because of the Roundup glyphosate issue. So this story, again, if you take a look at the coverage that corporate media has given this story, it's almost non-existent. As a matter of fact, corporate media has tried to spin this story to point out the better angles about why Monsanto might have been right, and gee whiz, maybe they just missed it, and oh golly gosh, maybe they should have done more scientific studies, but we needed this product so badly. You don't even need this product. That's the interesting thing about the story too.
Well, apropos of the product, for people who may not know what Roundup is or what glyphosate is, you want to give us just a short summary of what this product, what this chemical is, where it came from, how long it's been in the market, how it's been marketed, what the uses of it are, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, glyphosate, let me put it in perspective. You can mix vinegar with soap suds and put it on weeds, and it will kill the weed just as well as glyphosate will. But again, what we saw the industry inventing a need, okay? Inventing a need, and all of a sudden we have to do it. There was a time in the United States, in fact around the world, where there was this chemical revolution where we're going to solve everybody's problems with these new inventions, these new chemicals. This is one of those chemicals. Not that there wasn't anything there that would have done the same thing glyphosate did. You can Google right now, and you will find at least 2 or 3 things that are completely safe that'll accomplish the same thing that Roundup will. And these documents help to paint a very clear picture that Monsanto understood that there were very clear alternatives, and they understood the dangers of their own product. Otherwise, Tom, if you think about it, why would they have gone to such extreme lengths to try to undermine the science? You realize when we do this story and it's posted on the internet, what we're going to find is we're going to find trolls that are actually hired by Monsanto to discredit this story. They've got a whole network of trolls that they found doing this day to day. And so after we post this story, you're going to find these trolls existing with their comments underneath the story. And so we already knew long before these documents, Tom, came out, before they became public, that Monsanto had created what they called the Glyphosate Task Force, which was just a propaganda wing whose sole purpose was to question the scientific links between Roundup and cancer. Now, they did that at a very high level to begin with. They actually tried to influence universities. They tried to influence scientists. They tried to influence corporate media by paying more money to corporate media for advertising dollars. That's one way they did it, and then threatening corporate media by saying, gee whiz, if you write a bad story about us, we're gonna sue you. Well, there was nothing to sue about. I mean, it would be a ridiculous lawsuit. But they knew the scientific links. up in cancer. And so these latest documents are really just an extension of this information campaign that we've known about for a very long time. And as a matter of fact, the new extension of that misinformation campaign is to have these trolls, I'm not kidding you, trolls that Monsanto pays for to go to sites like we'll have up and go to stories like this and discredit the site or discredit the story, call me that I'm misrepresenting the truth. Well, you can't say that anymore because the documents show exactly what the truth is. As a matter of fact, go to the website of Levin Papantonio. We're going to have these documents posted on that website, and I invite Monsanto to go read them again before they send their trolls out to say this stuff just isn't true.
Wow. I had a scientist on. She was not a biological science person. I think she was a mathematician or maybe an engineer. But she had done the epidemiology and came to the conclusion, and I realize it's very controversial, that Monsanto, according to glyphosate, that it doesn't disrupt the metabolic processes of animals. It does it to plants. And although it may cause cancer to animals, but that's kind of a different thing. But it disrupts bacteria as well as plants. And she was positing that it's destroying or disrupting the bacteria in the gut, and particularly in mom's gut when she's pregnant, which might then dysregulate the body in a way that could even produce autism. Did you come across any evidence of any of that sort of thing?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. The short list is Alzheimer's. The short list in connection to this glyphosate are the possibilities of Alzheimer's disease, autism, birth defects, ALS, Parkinson's disease. It just goes on forever. Breast cancer. But this is not new material. Look, I'm going to be trying a lawsuit against, full disclosure, I'm going to be trying a lawsuit against this case down in St. Louis, probably within the next 18 months. And these documents are going to be documents that they have to answer in court. And you know what? This is just the tip of the iceberg. What we're going to find out is we're going to find documents that was overwhelmingly clear, because we see it every time we go to trial with a corporate thug like this that's trying to cover things up and trying to keep the truth from the public. We find it. We don't sometimes it doesn't come from them. It comes from other agencies that don't destroy documents, don't shred documents. It comes from other agencies that have possession of these documents. So we go in through the back door to get this, and we've already started that, in the stuff we're finding right now is remarkable. I'm telling you, these documents are only the tip of the iceberg, Tom.
Yeah, it's remarkable. And we have just about a little less than a minute left. Monsanto also manufactures GMOs, do they not? I mean, they modify seeds so that they can tolerate glyphosate. Is there a problem with the GMOs as well, or is that a completely separate issue?
Well, let me tell you, there are attorneys, not so much in the United States. There are attorneys in the U.S. looking at the GMO issue, but primarily we're seeing that come out of Europe and Asia, where you have them asking serious questions about the GMOs. Look, here it is. Trends follow companies. Just like a trend follows a person, trends follow companies. Trends of cover-up, trends of deception, trends that we're seeing like we're seeing firsthand with glyphosate. Those same kind of trends, we have to ask ourselves anytime it's represented to us that everything's safe. On this company, we have to really ask some serious questions, Tom.
Amen. Mike Papantonio, thank you.
Thank you.
Great having you with us. By the way, for all you mystery fans out there, be sure to check out Pap's forthcoming legal thriller, Law and Vengeance, out in September. Coming up, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg is behaving like he wants to run for president. But do we really want another oligarch in the White House? I'll ask Dave McCullough and Isaiah Poole in tonight's Big Picture panel right after this break.
When all truths seem wrong, when all rules just don't hold, And a new world is yet to shape out. Disdain becomes the etiquette, and engagement equals betrayal. When so many find themselves worlds apart, we choose to look for common ground.
Silicon Valley has given us the personal computer, the iPhone, and the gig economy. Could it also give us our next president? And if so, is that really what's best for the country? Let's ask tonight's Big Picture panel. With me for tonight's Big Picture panel are Dave McCullough, partner at Capital Media Partners, and Isaiah Poole, communications director at People's Action. And thank you both for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Tom.
Great. Let's get started. In a move that has virtually everyone thinking presidential run, Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg has hired pollster Joel Benenson, the chief strategist for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, to work as a consultant for his personal philanthropy. Zuckerberg recently hired former Obama campaign manager David Fluff to work at that same charity. Zuckerberg has also been traveling across the country in recent months to talk to average Americans. So the question, do we really need another oligarch presidential candidate? I mean, just the scandals, the financial connections of Trump have given us have been just mind-boggling.
Well, I would say flat no.
No more billionaires, no more oligarchs?
No more billionaires, no more oligarchs. Mark Zuckerberg is not what we call a real person. I mean, we all like Facebook. We all get a lot of joy out of that service, but that's where, he did that. We actually have a big problem in that space with Facebook, Amazon, Google. They control so much of the economy now that, we really ought to be looking at asking serious questions about whether we ought to rein these companies in somehow. I don't know all of the answers, but having the creator of Facebook as president of the United States will not get us to answering those serious questions about the power of these corporations.
And the Europeans are talking about antitrust actions against at least one of those companies, against Google.
My big question wouldn't be about whether or not he's an oligarch or successful or rich or whatever it is. It's about the media. I mean, Facebook itself is a giant platform for people to be able to say whatever it is they want to say, offensive or not. And for him to potentially have access to the controls to figure out what you're going to see, what you're going to see, or what you're not going to see, that's a bigger question, I think.
That's a really good point.
I think it is a good question.
And that was huge in the last election. Now that we're looking back on it, we see that the company that Robert Mercer had, the billionaire who was funding Trump, he had some sort of a data operation, or his daughter did, Rebecca did, that was like doing a deep dive into the Facebook data. I think it was the Facebook data. It might have been somebody else who was doing this, but on both sides, but particularly effectively on the Republican side, they were getting psychographic information about people based on what they liked and what they didn't like on the pictures that they clicked on and things, and then using that to advertise to them.
In full disclosure, this is what I do a lot of for a living. I do a lot of advertising on Facebook. I know how it works. I know how it doesn't work, and I know how you can target things to certain people to get them to change your mind.
How granular is it, Dave?
It's kind of scary, to be honest.
Really?
It really is.
Example.
So I can take, for instance, email addresses or phone numbers or addresses of people, actual real addresses of people, and I can go after you. I can specifically go and look at you based on research that maybe someone provides me. If someone provides me psychological information about what their magazines are that they subscribe to, or polling data, then we can do different ads based on different things we know about them.
Right, so you could develop 50 different ads for the same candidate, but one leans toward people who are angry, one leans toward people who are happy, one leans toward people who are freaked out.
This is done on the left and the right and everyone in between. This is done for nonprofit organizations. This is really an advanced technology that people are taking advantage of. It's nothing new. Right. But it is scary what you can do with some of this advertising.
And that's why we ought to be asking serious questions about public policy in this sphere. You mentioned antitrust, and I know that the Washington Post profiled a woman whose name I can't remember, but Stephen Pearlstein wrote a very lengthy profile in the Washington Post about a legal expert who's now raised some very provocative questions about how antitrust law needs to come into the 21st century to ask serious questions about how these powers are used. They can be used for good, but they can also be used for ill.
Yeah, yeah. This is a and finally, just to wrap this topic up, a grand jury was impaneled today in the Trump-Russia investigations, and it just got to have Trump freaked out. But it seems to me that much of what's there, to the extent that we know what's there with regard to Trump, is probably tied up in his taxes, his finances. Whether it's with Russian oligarchs or whether it's with American billionaires or whether it's running scams in the Philippines. He's got a Trump hotel. He and Duterte.
I'm just also curious about what role Russia played in our election. That's all I want to know.
Sure.
That's definitely what I want to know.
Yeah, and it would be nice to have an independent, nonpartisan investigation of that. But the point I'm making is that billionaires have tangled finances, and those tangled finances are not always pretty. In fact, I would say probably with most billionaires, they're really not pretty. Is that another reason not to have another billionaire running for president?
We'll see what he has to say. We'll see what his platform is, because all we know at this moment is he's hired some pollsters, he's hired some clearly hired some PR people to spin this into a talking average Americans.
Yeah.
Well, we really need the ethics laws that were supposed to be in place to separate private interest from public interest really need to have come into play under Trump, and they really need to serve as a barrier for the next person who comes in line who wants to entangle his private interests in the public sphere.
And ultimately, it's up to the people, because they're the voters, and the voters are the ones who voted in Mr. Trump.
Yeah, although the people can be as you
manipulated with Facebook.
Exactly.
Well, there we go. That's the problem.
Over the next 2 days, the 3,500 mostly black employees at the Nissan factory in Canton, Mississippi will vote to decide whether or not they're going to join the United Auto Workers. That election is an historic moment in the history of the labor movement in the South and could lead to a region-wide unionization drive. Meanwhile, here in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump is doing everything he can to make it harder for workers to organize. He's nominated 2 veteran union busters to serve on the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB, one of whom has already been confirmed by the Senate. So if both these guys are confirmed, Republicans will have a majority on the NLRB and will have free rein to gut what remains of the labor movement. How is this making America great again? Unions have always been the key driver of income inequality throughout American history. And if Trump is serious about helping workers, why is he making it harder for them to organize?
Because that's what conservative ideology dictates, that businesses should have the right to do whatever, pretty much whatever businesses want to do without the heavy hand of government on them. And when workers organize, particularly when they are protected by government, and it's regarded as a fundamental interference in how the market is supposed to work. I don't think that's right. I think there has to be a balance of power between workers and employers. And it's got to be more than just this idea that I often hear that, if the workers don't like it, they can leave and get another job. That's not always possible. The National Labor Relations Board was created to be an arbiter between workers and their employers, to stack the deck the way the Trump administration wants to do and the way the Bush administration did in previous administration. This is fundamentally wrong. We ought to be fighting against that. We really need to have someone who we can trust as a neutral arbiter, a fair arbiter.
I don't think that just because there's more Republicans on the board that suddenly all unions are just going to vanish one day. And my other question...
Well, they largely have. I mean, we had about a third of America was unionized when Reagan came into office, and it's now 6% of the private economy.
And
the war on labor has been working.
And more jobs in America are not labor union type jobs. I mean, and you know what?
What's a labor union type job? What does that even mean?
Yeah, I'm a member of a labor union.
I'm not, nor will I ever be. But that's fine. My point is, though, that as more and more people are embracing the gig economy, they're embracing independent employment, there are less and less, I don't want to say needs for labor unions, but at the same time, you're seeing the desire to be in one shrink.
Well, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see.
By the way, Uber drivers and others in the gig economy are looking for ways to organize themselves.
Yeah, and the UAW is trying to, or excuse me, the Teamsters are trying to get in there, and we'll see how that all plays out. The NAACP has issued a travel warning for Missouri after that state's right-wing governor signed into law a bill that some are saying turns back the clock to the Jim Crow era. The bill in question, also known as SB 43, makes it virtually impossible for workers to sue their bosses for outright discrimination. The NAACP's travel warning also cited Missouri's recent history of police violence as a reason people of color should reconsider visiting that state. So we are involved in long-term sectarian wars in the Middle East. But isn't it safe to say that we've been fighting one of our own for the past few centuries right here in the United States? I mean, this is still the ringing echo of slavery and chattel slavery and all the horrors that were associated with it.
Well, I tell you, it really does remind me of the days when African American travelers used to have to. There was something called the Green Book, and the Green Book was, the book that told you where the hotels where you could stay at, the restaurants you could eat at if you're black, back in the Jim Crow era.
Segregation.
Yeah, and it almost feels like that in the sense that we know that there are places where black people, I feel it. There are places where I feel less comfortable.
Mm. Or less welcome.
Less welcome in this era. This is not the America that we want. Everybody should be free to go everywhere and feel as if they want to plant their roots in a particular state, that they have the full protection of their rights and their liberties.
Should be.
And I mean, I don't think that any of us would disagree that race relations in Missouri, let alone in the United States as a whole, they're bad. They're absolutely terrible. But before we even jump to that, let's look at that SB 43 real quick. Basically, it raises the standard up to, I can't remember what the exact legal language is, but it raises up to the national standard for discrimination. You have to prove that you were discriminated against. As a result, you were fired. That's the national standard.
I don't
Except
think so.
Except that, even to the extent that there have been courts that have been pushing in that direction, the reality is that pattern and practice you can't do on an individual level.
Yeah,
you have to look at it collectively over time.
Yeah, I'm with you. Dave McCullough, Isaiah Poole, thank you guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Great having you.
Appreciate it.
And that's the way it is tonight. And don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. Get out there, get active, tag. You're in.
Welcome to the Twilight Zone. It would seem this is the place where Debbie Wasserman Schultz resides, works, and even conspires. She's at the center of a growing scandal that includes ethics violations, fraud, and gross mishandling of sensitive government documents. And guess what? None of this is being blamed on Russia.
In such an environment, you can look to a bright future with confidence and optimism.
Chemical discoveries over the last century made everyday life easier. But at what cost?
This cereal is exceptionally toxic. No wonder it's confidential. This is 50 years old.
Industrial giants reaped the benefit, ignoring the harm caused by chemical production.
As if these people aren't people. They're just experimental animals.
Decades later, the toxic environment continues to poison lives.
We found these astronomically high levels of dioxin, levels that my staff think may be some of the highest levels ever found in the United States. For almost 30 years, this very serious problem had not actually been addressed.
What will an investigation into the chemical industry's secrets reveal?
At best, it's despicable. And at the worst, it's criminal.
welcome to Worlds Apart. Just a few months ago, the Paris climate change deal was celebrated as a new model of international problem solving, a proof of President Obama's consensus-seeking talent, and a victory of foresight over immediate gratification. But now that President Trump has effectively taken the United States out of the deal without formally denouncing it, what does it leave the others? Well, to discuss that, I'm now joined by Erik Solheim, Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Program. Thank you very much for your time. It's great to see you here in Russia.
Thank you so much. Спасибо большое.
Well, I know that the day of the Paris deal signing was a very big day for you. You said specifically that you see that as an indication that the shift toward greener world was irreversible. But just a couple of days ago, President Trump signed an executive order which effectively nullifies many of the commitments made by the Obama administration. Don't you think that that jubilation was a little bit premature on your part?
No, basically, I don't think so, because I'm absolutely confident that the world will move and that we are past the point of no return, even with the recent development in the United States, for two main reasons. For sure, China, India, the European Union, everyone else will move, whatever happens in the White House. And secondly, the forces of technology and business are now so strong that there is no way of return.
But still, the United States is a big player, and President Obama made it quite clear that the United States, under his administration, has no intention of living up to the its commitments to the targets that it set for itself to carbon dioxide. And I know that this is something that you personally have been very passionate about. I wonder how you see it for yourself. Do you think it's just a funky phase that the United States is going through, or is it something more long-term for Washington?
At the very worst, this may slow down a little bit the road forward. Probably the impact will be less than most people think, because the forces of technology and business are now so strong. All big companies I'm aware of in the world accept climate change as a fact of the day. All of them want to move in a sustainable direction, and that's also where all the jobs are. In the United States...
Well, not all of them, some of them.
But the majority, I mean, in the United States of America, to take that example, there are 5 times more jobs in the solar industry than in the coal industry. And of course, investors know that, and no investor is in doubt where the future lies. The future obviously lies with the enormous surge we now see in solar energy all over the world, where, by the way, Russia also can do better. China, India, and others are now moving so fast into renewable energy, solar and wind and others.
Mm-hmm. Now, the New York Times, which is usually quite critical of Mr. Trump, already accused him of turning climate change denial into national policy. I wonder if you would frame it in those exact terms, and do you think those labels are helpful in trying to persuade him otherwise?
I will not use any sort of labels, but just state the one fact: we do not elect scientists. Scientists come because of the knowledge they do have, and there is a overriding scientific agreement from all corners of the world, from the United States of America, China, India, Russia, everywhere, that climate change is undeniable, it's very dangerous, and we need to act.
Now, we don't elect scientists, but we do elect politicians, and I think what was particularly interesting about the Paris deal is that many of its advocates underscored self-determination in setting those targets as its main advantage. The fact that the countries themselves can decide how much they can reduce. And this is also essentially what led the United States off the hook so easily. Do you think that was the right framework? Wouldn't it have made better sense to make it more binding while the political will was still there?
I think what we got in Paris was one of the best international agreements we has ever had, and the reason it will work is that the Chinese are not attacking climate change because of the Americans, nor are the Indians doing it for the Russians. The Chinese, the Indians, the Europeans, everyone, they're doing it for themselves because their leaders and the people understand this is dangerous, and that's why they are acting. And look to history. In history, there was some people who tried to stop the tide of history. I mean, the so-called Luddites who tried to stop the Industrial Revolution. They did not succeed. Those who try to stop the rapid change into the renewable will not succeed.
But Mr. Solheim, the history is never linear. You know, it may move one step forward, 2 steps back. Sure. So, you know, I think even those 2 steps backs would be a concerning factor for somebody like you.
But there is overriding agreement in the scientific community, also in the United States of America, that you need to act. There is overriding agreement with the main companies of the United States that you won't need to act. Google, maybe the most iconic company in the world these years, will be 100% renewable this year. Walmart, and a huge American company, they will reduce their emission similar to 200 million cars. And they say, we do not do this for the White House. We do it for our customers, for the environment, but at the end of the day, we do it because it's sound business for Walmart.
Now, you mentioned the aspect of jobs, and this is Mr. Trump's main selling point, that the reversal on the Obama administration's climate change commitments is going to, bring more jobs, particularly in the mining sector, where perhaps some of his electorate is. And that brings us back to the argument of what you choose, the present or the future, this generation or future generations. How do you explain that after all those years of talking about win-win, the choice is once again so binary?
But also those of us who are really adamant to move the environment agenda forward need to accept that there is a need to pay attention to those who lose their jobs or who need to change. We need to put up social policy, re-education programs for those who lose from this move into the green. I mean, I was very much involved a few years back in protecting a steel plant in Norway because we wanted the jobs. But I was wrong. Because there are many more jobs at that steel plant site today in all the remarkable new technologies than there were at the old steel plant. Added, these jobs are much cleaner, better paid, and there are many more jobs for women.
Mm-hmm. Now, I assume that this would be something for business leaders to consider, and you mentioned some of them already, but I wonder if your overall strategy of working with the United States is going to change, because, we've seen that the reversal on the part of the U.S. federal government, but a number of states have come forward, for example, New York, California, who said that they are going to challenge Mr. Trump on that particular front. Doesn't it make sense for you and perhaps the broader environmental community to sort of shift away from the White House more towards the regional actors?
But let me start being absolutely clear. Even though I am absolutely confident that we see Chinese, European, Indian, Russian leadership on this issue, we also need American leadership. So we will reach out in any dialogue with the Trump administration to look into where there are common points, how we can act together.
Have you been able to interact so far? Because he has obviously signed this executive order already. Has he requested any feedback from you?
I will go to Washington in a few weeks' time, and of course I'm hopeful that I can be able to meet with the Environment Protection Administrator at the time.
That's going to be already after the fact of signing this major executive order into force, right?
But we will reach out. We will have any sort of dialogue with the Trump administration. But added to that, because the state of California is a huge state, it's maybe the 10th biggest economy on the world, and the regulations set by California or New York, just to mention these two states, have enormous impact also on American business, for the simple reason that no American company of any size can afford not to be in the California market. That's 35 to 40 million people.
So essentially what you're saying is that the regional strategy is already playing out.
We are ready to work with regions as we are in other parts of the world. I mean, just this week I was in Berlin, where I met with representatives of 3 big states of China. This because all of them are regions with close to 100 million people.
But you do understand that some people in the White House may see that as you're sort of interfering with the American domestic program, especially if, for example, Mr. Trump would see that as efforts to sabotage his own policy.
Not at all. I mean, 2 weeks back I was in India. I met with the chief minister of the state of Maharashtra. I met with the chief minister of the state of Andhra Pradesh. Both of them states with 50-60 million people.
But they do agree with the country's federal policy, whereas in this case you do have a stark disagreement.
But it's completely normal for the United Nations both to work with governments and those in opposition. When we had a democratic government in Washington, of course, we try to reach out anytime to the Republicans. And we will do that vice versa now when there is a Republican administration. For sure, we will work with the Democrats as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. Trump hasn't yet decided whether to formally withdraw from the Paris Agreement, but with the changes he has already announced, does it really matter if the United States remains a formal signatory to the Paris deal?
That's important, and I just saw that ExxonMobil, I mean, quite not the source where you maybe expect this, strongly advised the Trump administration to remain in the Paris Agreement.
Why do you think it's important?
Because it sends a clear signal to the world. All the specific policies which are needed, every nation need to decide. That's important.
Now, I've seen some analysts suggest that the political cost for the Trump administration from withdrawing from this deal would be significant enough to thwart progress on many other fronts and to complicate their relations with other allies. So the suggestion here is that the United States should stay in, show some attendance, but essentially do nothing. Is that, I understand that it is perhaps the approach aimed at minimizing the damage, but is that really what you would like to see?
There are many different signals coming from different political quarters in the United States at the moment. What I think is the most important is that the very, very clear signal from business is that the future is with renewables. We want to move in that direction, and I'm very confident because the number one promise of Donald Trump to the American voters was, I will create jobs for you. And then over time, the jobs will come in the renewables, not in the coal mines.
Well, Mr. Solheim, we have to take a very short break now, but when we come back, with the Trump administration taking a back seat on climate change, what does it leave other countries? That's coming up in a moment on Worlds Apart. Stay tuned.
Most people think to stand out in this business, you need to be the first one on top of the story or the person with the loudest voice or the biggest ratings. In truth, to stand out in the news business, you just need to ask the right questions and demand the right answers. Question more.
فريق الإخبارية السعودية أنا الصحفية يارا صالح مطر. مرتين عدنا التسجيل لأنه هو الفيديو اللي كان فيه طلب شروط من الإرهابيين. هاي الثانوية الشرعية للبنين بالتل بناء على العظم. في كتير تغيرات صارت على المكان يمكن. وبعدين كان في فرشة هون كنت أنا قاعد عليها. وبعدين إجا الشيخ تبعهم. وأفتى إنه نحن كلنا على الفرن المفروض كلنا نموت.
صور أحمد صور.
يعني أنا أصبت بالوجه بهذه المنطقة، منطقة الجمجمة، كان هناك كسر تم تركيب صفيحة، وصبت بالرقبة بشظية وهي ما زالت موجودة حتى اللحظة هنا في منطقة الحلق وخلف البصر السيسائية. ولكن صدقني المراسل الحربي هو إدمان.
هون بنقدر بناخذ اكثر. هي مدخل القصر العدلي، هون كان التفجير، حوالي 50 شهيد واكثر ايضا من 50 جريح. لاحظنا الرأس الانتحاري موجود مع احد هي، ولكن عملي هو الاسد.
Welcome back to Worlds Apart. We are discussing the politics of climate change with Erik Solheim, Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Programme. Mr. Solheim, the United States is the world's second biggest climate polluter after China, and the signing of the Paris deal was in large part due to the agreement between these two nations. You already mentioned that you believe that China will stay on board, but what about other countries?
Well, what's happening in China now, we need to take note, is absolutely amazing. And most Russians and most Americans haven't really understood it. Last week, they closed down the last coal plant in Beijing. Just another example, the northern Chinese city of Taiyuan, which, by the way, is the capital of the coal part of China. They have now made the entire fleet of taxis electric. And this is happening all over China. The power of the environment minister in China is so big. I would have loved to have the same power when I was the environment minister of Norway some years back.
Now, China has indeed been adding a lot to its renewable energy capacity, but I wonder if that's enough to categorically state that this transition from, as you call it, brown capitalism to green capitalism is already irreversible. Don't you think that there is still a chance of the same sort of turnaround as we are now observing in the United States?
I'm absolutely sure there will be no turnaround in China, and that is because what they do for climate is exactly what they will also do to curb local pollution. And if there is one topic, which is the number one topic for the now vast, huge Chinese middle class, it's pollution, because pollution is so heavy in Shanghai or Harbin or Beijing or Guangzhou, all the big cities there, and they want to change. And President Xi has said that clean air, blue water, that's the new goal. So the Chinese will change.
I've seen some analysts suggest that it would be a nice idea to exploit President Trump's competitive streak as well as his, well, some would claim it, some would call it bias against China, and try to put out the narrative that if he sort of drops the ball on climate change, then China is going to out-innovate, out-compete the United States. And this is, according to those analysts, is something that may actually prompt Trump into action. Do you think that kind of psychological manipulation could work?
If the Americans were to retract from the renewable agenda, of course China will be the huge winner when it comes to competitiveness, and that's also why the United States will never do that. The United States will continue to grow both on solar, on wind and all renewables, and there will be the sun competition, which drives down the price. And let's be fair to the Chinese, the main reason why solar is now competitive with coal everywhere in the world is the Chinese market. China has brought down price on wind and solar so that it can compete. Now solar can compete with coal everywhere on the planet for new power plants.
I wonder, how do you explain that? Is that just the sort of central command and centralized authority that the Chinese have, or is it really down to their business ingenuity, or perhaps moral motivations and the care about the planet?
I mean, it's obviously both. I mean, it's the ability to innovate from Chinese workers and engineers, but also with the strong signal from President Xi and the top leadership of China that this is the direction where we want to go.
So, ironically, the United States may benefit from being a little bit more centralized, if not to say authoritarian. If you had such a strong leader in the United States who would advocate climate change, wouldn't that be the best of both worlds for you?
Leadership is always the number one issue in politics. I mean, look to development in the world. Some nations which have done fantastically, like, say, Singapore, South Korea, just as a couple of examples, it's all about leadership. And what has happened in China over the last few years is also the leadership from the top setting a new green agenda. But obviously they do it because they know that all the mothers and fathers in all the Chinese cities want this to happen.
Now, on par with the United States, the European Union has long portrayed itself as a leader in climate and environmental issues, but a recent report found that only 3 European countries are currently on track with meeting the Paris deal targets that they set for themselves. Why is Europe lagging behind at this point?
Well, Europe is, of course, very diverse, so some countries are moving faster than others. But at the core of the European Union, obviously, is Germany. And if there is one kind of global leader on going green, it's probably Germany. And the so-called Energiewende, which is the transformation of the German economy when it comes to energy, is a big, again, another big with China, a big driver of the renewable agenda in the world.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Russia for now remains the largest greenhouse gas emitter that hasn't ratified the Paris deal. And I think one of the reasons it hasn't done so is the Western sanctions that limit Russia's access to both to the capital markets and the technology that it needs in order to make its industries clean. I wonder if that is perhaps ironic. If Russia was fully on board with the Paris deal, wouldn't that make the Trump administration perhaps a little more inclined to keep with the rest of the global community?
I mean, obviously, we want Russia to ratify the Paris Agreement and to do it fast. Obviously, we want Russia to rapidly transform its economy from being too dependent on fossil fuels into much more renewable. But the slogan of this conference here in our Congress is the right one, to make the Arctic the territory of dialogue. We need a lot more dialogue. If we allow some politicians in some nations to divide ourselves, we will fail.
But we have already allowed ourselves, because this Congress hasn't taken place for 3 years. I mean, there was no dialogue over the Arctic.
Absolutely. I mean, I will not run around finger pointing, but we need to come together. And what we heard from President Putin here today was also a strong message that let's work together, Russia and the United States, but also, of course, China, European Union and others. If we come together, we can resolve all issues. If we are divided, we will resolve nothing, basically.
Now, we are speaking on the sidelines of the International Arctic Forum, and if you talk to the people here, many of them would make a point that the renewables fever hasn't quite caught up with Russia, and Russia, for now at least, is quite comfortable with remaining a country of oil and gas as well as nuclear, relying on them as its main energy sources. Do you think renewables are good for everyone? Is that something that every country should sort of strive for? Whereas, many people in this country would claim that we have this competitive advantage for now. Why should we ever think about the renewables, especially if it takes so much money?
But if you don't do it, you will lose in the competition, because, I mean, if you don't go into what is the future, the Chinese, the Indians, for that matter, the Americans and Germans will take all the markets, and the Russian industry will lose. Those who remain in the oil always lose. I mean, they lose when it comes to environment, but they also lose when it comes to jobs. I mean, that's been every lesson learned from history.
But you just complimented President Putin on, wanting to cooperate with the world. But one of the messages that came out of his speech is that he wants to cooperate with other foreign partners in developing oil and gas fields here in the Arctic. Is that the kind of message that you would personally approve of?
I think we need to be very, very careful when it comes to oil and gas in the Arctic, because at the moment there is no known technology to pick up the oil in the ice. When I was Minister of Environment of Norway, we had a very small oil spill in the Oslo Fjord. In January, there was no technology to get rid of the oil. So if we start oil exploitation in the Arctic, we need to go slow, to be very careful, and then need to be a very, very strong policy to avoid any sort of oil spills, because nature do not take care of the oil in the Arctic. Nature may take care of some of the oil spills in the tropical waters, because they're much, much warmer.
But I think Norway is one of those countries that is actually, despite its work on the renewable front, is actually very much pushing ahead with the traditional oil and gas industry as well, isn't it?
I advised the Norwegian government exactly as I advised Russia now, and we need to go slow, and there is no reason to rush this. Norway, by the way, is also one of the most affluent countries in the world. Norway doesn't need that money. The oil fund in Norway is so big. But there are also in Norway positive developments. For instance, the big Norwegian oil company Statoil is now trying to use the enormous technology that's developed offshore in oil to see how it can be useful for offshore wind. Because if you can have windmills at sea, there is an enormous potential for renewable energy.
Mm-hmm. Now, many here in Russia say that even if Russia is not extremely enthusiastic about the Paris deal, for now at least, Russia can still contribute productively to protecting the planet by being a responsible caretaker, for example, in the Arctic. How would you evaluate the Russian track record in that field so far?
I think the signals that got from this conference is very good. I mean,
I'm not asking you about the signals. I'm asking you about the track record.
Well, I mean, obviously it's a mixed track record, but I've also seen the president now very strongly focusing in on how Russia can get rid of a lot of the rubbish which came from old Soviet-style military equipment and old Soviet-style industrial waste, and try to get rid of this. Russia has also now developed some new, very, very encouraging Arctic protected area. Among them, I mean, President yesterday went to Franz Josef's land, which is part of this new big protected area. There's 7 new protected areas in Russia in the pipeline for this year. So there are lots of positives. One absolute key one is for all the Arctic nations to come together to protect the fishing stock in the unregulated areas. Because if you allow fishing vessels to go there to pick up the fish, since it's the sovereignty of no one, will be very dangerous, and at the end of the day, everyone will lose.
I wonder, when it comes to protecting the Arctic, do you think all countries of the world share equal responsibility, or perhaps you would expect more from the 8 nations that make up the Arctic Council?
I think you need those nations who surround the Arctic to be in the driving seat and lead this, but you definitely also need China, Japan, Korea, and many other many others also have a stake in the Arctic. By the way, we had a huge success last year in the Antarctica, where Russia played a critical role, and that was the protection of the Ross Sea. This is the biggest protected area now anywhere on the planet. And in an area which is not the sovereignty of any nation.
It was a big deal, but you won't hear about it in many of the Western media. And this is another question that I want to ask you about. For all the tensions between Russia and the West, I know that many Western countries do recognize that Russia is trying to be good when it comes to the Arctic and when it comes to the Antarctica as well. And yet there are also many politicians who are reluctant to cooperate with Russia in those areas, specifically because they have geopolitical disagreements in other areas. I wonder, how challenging is it to keep the Arctic issue or the Antarctic issue depoliticized? Is it even possible?
I think we should do a lot more to make sure that we cooperate in the Arctic, whatever happens on other geopolitical issues, because Arctic is so central. Everyone would lose. By the way, when I go to the United States, I defend China, I defend Russia. When I come here, I defend the United States, because whatever politician who tries to incite conflicts should be defeated.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because it leads me to my last question. I know that in your previous capacity you had to do a lot with warring parties and the mediation. You participated in trying to find a solution to the Sri Lankan conflict. And I'm sure you would agree with me that the mediation is a very challenging and often very ungrateful process. How do you see yourself in this new role of the UNEP Executive General? Are you more of a mediator, or are you perhaps just an administrator, or who is responsible for implementing something that has already been agreed upon?
I think both. I mean, I'm a campaigner, launching campaigns. For instance, we just launched a campaign called Clean Seas to pick up all the enormous plastic pollutions which are destroying our oceans, but also being a mediator. And if there was one issue I learned from my maybe 10 years trying to assist peace in Sri Lanka, which at the end didn't succeed, and many of the people I knew were killed, it was have big ears. God gave you 2 ears, just 1 mouth. Please listen to the other side. And that's a very, very good advice to global politicians also. Here in Russia, please listen to China, please listen to the US, but of course when you go there, please listen to Russia.
So essentially what you're saying here is that even if you had a failure at a certain point of your career, you may perhaps turn it into success later on.
I learned a lot being at the hotspot of that conflict, which killed tens of thousands of people. But of course I despair over the unnecessary life lost.
Well, Mr. Solheim, I wish you all the success in your new endeavor. Thank you very much for your time. And to our viewers, please share your comments in our Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube pages. And I hope to see you again, same place, same time, here on Worlds Apart.
Welcome to the Twilight Zone. It would seem this is the place where Debbie Wasserman Schultz resides, works, and even conspires. She's at the center of a growing scandal that includes ethics violations, fraud, and gross mishandling of sensitive government documents. And guess what? None of this is being blamed on Russia.
You can't import healthcare from China. It's all very local. You have the case of gouging and price gouging by monopolists in America. And as a result, people's health is declining. The life expectancy is falling. Childbirth deaths increasing because of these monopolies and the lack of competition.
Washington blames Russia for the current escalating diplomatic crisis, while Donald Trump holds Congress responsible for derailing relations with Moscow. The World Athletics body rules all Russian athletes will continue to be suspended from track and field competitions amid doping concerns. And Venezuela's newly elected Constituent Assembly starts work as the US brands the country's president a dictator and puts him on a par with Syria's Bashar al-Assad. We'll return next hour with more on today's top stories. Up next on RT, though, it's the Kaiser Report. Stay with us.
Hi, Max Kaiser. This is the Kaiser Report. What is a monopoly, not a monopoly? Certainly you've played Monopoly. Who wins Monopoly? Is it still active? Are there any rules against it? Should we be wary of monopolies forming? Who's on what side of this debate? Who should care? Let's talk to Stacey.
Actually, while we've been here in Nevada, O.J. Simpson was released on parole. And you talked about when is monopoly not monopoly, and things. I think of the Monopoly game, and somebody came up with the idea. I think it was you actually to come up with jail coin. That O.J. Simpson should launch jail coin, and that's a get out of jail free card, no matter what despicable act you may have got. He should work with Eric Holder, maybe get a deferred prosecution coin, a deferred prosecution token sort of thing.
Well, yeah, my idea was that O.J. Simpson should launch an ICO called Juice Coin. So it disintermediates murder and homicide and larceny. So kind of a play on that. Juice Coin.
Basically, because those outside of America who don't know or who are too young to remember O.J. Simpson, he was called The Juice. That was his nickname. Anyway, here you're talking about monopoly, but I want to talk, this is a theme we've been focusing on, is that these monopolies and oligopolies and oligarchs here in America that are kind of keeping the wages down, making America not so great again. And how do we bust up these monopolies and antitrust actions when we don't have a Teddy Roosevelt? You had said you hope that Trump could be this sort of person, but there's no indication that he's going to be that sort of person because of the people he's appointing, and we're going to get into those headlines. But on the other side, the Democrats are not. They don't care about the monopolies developing because mostly it's in Silicon Valley right now these days, and intellectual property and patents and copyright. That is really where a lot of the most onerous monopolies are happening, and those are big supporters of the Democrats. So I want to look at one tweet that I saw from a German finance guy. And this is while we've been here as well. This is a headline that fits in with the reality of a world where we have monopolies ruling everything. Wealth for all. Global stocks gained another $1.6 trillion this week. Equities now worth $76.9 trillion, highest in history, equals to 102% of world GDP. So you see, stock markets keep on soaring and soaring and soaring. They love these monopolies. They love this sort of situation.
Well, monopoly by definition means monopoly pricing. And monopoly pricing by definition means non-competitive pricing. And that, by definition, means an economy that's been given over toward monopolists, oligopolists, and price gougers in America in the healthcare industry because you can't import healthcare from China. It's all very local. You have the case of gouging and price gouging by monopolists in America. And as a result, people's health is declining. Life expectancy is falling. Childbirth deaths increasing because of these monopolies and the lack of competition. So it's a very insidious, dangerous condition fueled by the cheap money that is coming out of the Federal Reserve Bank, who answers to no one but the monopolists. Their job is not to, according to the twin mandate, price stability and employment. They're not serving those mandates whatsoever. They're only serving one God, the God of monopoly pricing. And you're going to talk about one particular case.
Yes, we're going to talk about the case. But, you mentioned that the Federal Reserve Bank has monopoly on basically setting interest rates and deeming what is a legitimate currency. And I know you talked in the second half with Charlie Shrem. He does mention that having these individual currencies and cryptocurrencies and ICOs and thing has broken up that sort of monopoly and allowed this sort of wealth and job creation that Trump said he was looking for. But here's one of the monopoly positions that Trump, it seems unlikely that he's going to break this up or have any concern about it, nor will the Democrats. To save rural Iowa, we must oppose Monsanto-Bayer merger. Iowa farmers face a crisis. Crop prices have fallen by more than 50% since 2013, with no end in sight. At the same time, farmers hold more debt and possess fewer capital reserves to fall back on. In fact, farmers' debt levels are almost as high as they were prior to the farm crisis of the mid-1980s. Meanwhile, we've seen all these mega mergers happening between agricultural giants. And if approved, the proposed merger would result in just two companies in the agricultural space, Monsanto-Bayer and Dow-DuPont, controlling 3/4 of the U.S. corn seed market. Hey, there's Peter Schiff right behind us.
Hey, Peter, how's it going?
You guys filming?
We're recording a
doing a show right now. You're making a cameo. You're doing a cameo appearance.
Oh.
Fantastic.
We're going to come talk to you.
Have you gotten a lot of flack from the cryptocurrency community?
Always. Somebody else came out with a new hit piece on me today. Some guy.
Peter's been defending gold against the crypto during the entire Freedom Fest.
Yeah, now they're all accusing me I'm some kind of insider shill for the globalists.
Soros, yes.
I'm in bed with George Soros.
Mm-hmm. I read that somewhere too, Peter.
Yeah, I'm an insider now. I didn't realize that. I'm part of the establishment. I've been undercover all these years.
That's right.
I've been waiting for this moment.
We're going to come talk to you in a few minutes, then.
You are?
If you don't mind.
Oh, yeah. Where are you going to talk to me?
We're going to talk to you.
You're going to travel around with a camera?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll come over there in a
booth.
second.
We have the Bull Bear debate coming up in like a half hour, so you got to...
Cool.
Okay, we'll be over there in a few moments.
All right.
All right, Peter, thanks.
Okay.
All right. Peter Schiff, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Schiff.
Yay!
Yeah. All right. Well,
but I wanted to say, here, so you're going to have only two giant companies, Dow, DuPont, and Monsanto-Bayer, controlling 3/4 of the seed market. Farmers are already being squeezed, however. The price of corn seed, you mentioned price, that prices go up with monopolies. The price of corn seed has more than doubled in the past 10 years, from $51 per acre in 2006 to $102 in 2015. So their prices have doubled. Their profits have plummeted by 50%.
Remember Farm Aid?
Yeah.
Willie Nelson?
Yeah. And then Willie Nelson needed a
bailout. It's a vicious cycle. No, well, there's an enormous amount of information there, but you got Monsanto and Bayer going to merge potentially, and it would undermine the dynamism and competition in the food business. American farmers are being destroyed. And this is something that anyone who would be supportive of jobs in America or competition in America or American values, certainly the Corn Belt and American farmers, can't get more American than that. and yet no one is stepping in to stop this merger. And it gives Monsanto added power to be part of this monopolist Bayer-Monsanto combination. And remember, on a geopolitical front, on a global basis, the number one issue that is dividing Ukraine and causing tension with Russia is that Russia is against genetically modified organisms, GMO, in Russia. Monsanto, with Victoria Nuland and her husband, who's a lobbyist for Monsanto, staged a coup in Ukraine, and it's all about that rich farmland. Ukraine is to that area of the world what Kansas is to America. It's the breadbasket of Central Europe, Eurasia. And so there's a big battle. And who's waging this battle? Frickin' Monsanto, Bayer, is doing battle in domestic and foreign enemies. Yeah. Domestic and foreign enemies. Where's the CIA? Where's the NSA? Where's the FBI? These people are acting against the greater interests.
Probably right behind us.
Where's Peter Schiff?
No, that's the thing is also with everything so algorithms and the fact that Monsanto and Bayer and DuPont and all these guys know to a second and exactly where all their seeds are. They know exactly what your profit is to the penny, and they can make sure, like in this sort of gig economy, that these farmers only eke out the littlest of existence. Anytime prices might go up and their profits might be rising, they'll grab it and increase their seed costs or whatever, because they have the monopoly pricing and they can grab. They're not going to want you to be successful and independent. They'll basically a neo-feudal sort of model.
Right. The same way in banking, they manipulate LIBOR, Forex, gold, and algorithmic trading, high-frequency trading. They do in the agricultural market with patented seeds and control of and monopolization of that industry to kill the competition, literally in this instance, and to become this monopoly pricing and gouging pricing. So in America, it's get the worst of all possible worlds. You have price gouging on food here domestically with these monopolists. You have jobs being shipped over to Asia because of, again, monopolists. And you have local healthcare price gougers like the insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies taking prices way beyond any conceivable rate of inflation that would be commensurate with a sound business model. And you end up with disenfranchised Americans. No taxation without representation. Where have I heard that before? Let's frickin' just take these guys down. We've got the manpower. I'm sorry, I didn't want to go down that path. Freedom Fest. I'm getting caught up in the spirit.
So,
where's my Constitution?
Whether or not Trump will become the Teddy Roosevelt that you had hoped perhaps he might, this seems unlikely. If you look at this headline, how Trump's pick for top antitrust cop may shape competition. His name is Makan Dalarim. He's an Iranian American. He, however, is a lawyer. Used to work at the Department of Justice. He was also, however, a corporate lawyer and a lobbyist. He was a lobbyist for Amazon. He was a lobbyist or lawyer for Google, Comcast, Johnson & Johnson, Blue Cross Blue Shield. And he, however, is most interested, if he gets the job, in going after Europeans who are fining American companies like Google on antitrust thing. He thinks this is unfair to American corporations. And the article points out that he emphasized that antitrust is intended to support free markets and that the government should intervene only when necessary. A monopoly is perfectly legal, he says, until it abuses its monopoly power. So he says a monopoly is perfectly legal unless it abuses its monopoly power.
Well, he's not looking at the dictionary definition of monopoly. A monopoly, by definition, is abuse of the market. That's what a monopoly means. It's market abuse. And to claim that, it's like Bill Clinton said, it depends on what your definition of is. He's being obtuse. He's being solipsistic. He's manipulating the public discourse to further a monopolist aim in a way. Let me tell you, this guy is anti-American in no uncertain terms. And I mean, he should be pursued on those grounds and taken into a court of law.
This is like
treason.
If you turn into cable news here.
I'm very sick of these monopolists who are putting farmers out of business, who are destroying competition in America, abusing the English language to further their aim, to feather their own nests. These people are tyrants. These people should be dealt with in the most extreme possible way.
You've been watching too much American cable news because everybody says everybody's a traitor here.
The highest tree, a rope. Woo, woo, woo.
Anyway, we only have 20 seconds left, so I want to say, there's no freedom, there's no making America great again without busting up these monopolies and oligopolies in all around America at the moment.
Well said. Well, we got to go to the second half after this break, so don't go away. Stay with us. It's all good. Yeah.
Most people think to stand out in this business, you need to be the first one on top of the story or the person with the loudest voice or the biggest ratings. In truth, to stand out in the news business, you just need to ask the right questions and demand the right answers. Question more.
Hi there. Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to turn to Charlie Shrem, crypto legend. Charlie, welcome back.
It's good to see you again.
Great to check in with you from time to time. You're like an elder statesman of this whole space.
I love it.
People come to you like the Godfather.
I get people write their white papers by hand and mail them to me. They do that.
All right, talking about white papers. All right, so because it leads into my first question about initial coin offering.
Yeah.
Of course, an initial coin offering, relatively new phenomenon in the space. And it starts off with a white paper. People read the white paper.
Really nice website.
The nice website. They can buy into the coin before it is opened up, before it's traded actively, etc. But let's talk about the initial coin offerings. We heard from Peter Schiff here at Freedom Fest. He says the fact that so many coins and tokens can be created means that cryptocurrencies can't be a store of value. Your thoughts?
Well, at the end of the day, it's what's the point of this token? And you have all these different tokens that do different things. And at the end of the day, you know that value is what we all agree on. Most of these new tokens, they're not really meant to be stores of value. They're not really meant to be anything. In fact, one of them, like EOS, it says right there on the main website, this token has no value. This token is not a security. This token does not access our website. This token is literally for us to raise funds from you, and that's it.
Right, so you're referring to a paragraph in the EOS description that says quite plainly, what you're buying here gives you no rights, no equity, it's worth nothing, there's no guarantee it'll ever have any value. The purpose of this disclaimer is to make them exempt from all securities laws, they hope.
Yep.
So, but people buy into it anyway because it's a wink and a nod. They say, yeah, I know you have to put that in because you're trying to bypass the existing law.
If it quacks like a duck, if it acts like a duck, it's probably a duck. I've spent many awoken nights pondering the scientific situation of the ICO, and I've come up with what I call is the scientific word to use, FOMO, fear of missing out. That's all this is. It's you tell your friends, did you buy this token? Everyone's buying. I have tokens that people are messaging me that haven't even gone on sale yet, that are still in pre-sale, and they're not even transferable, that people are trading. So like one sells to 25 cents, and then they pre-sale, change the price to $1. Now all these people who bought it at 25 cents are now selling it at 75 cents. And what are they trading? They're trading nothing.
But it's like in a real estate market when it gets frothy, people are trading the properties before moving in, even before it hits the market that are trading. I mean, it's just characteristic signs of a bubble, putting aside the fact of whether cryptocurrency has value or not. In this particular instance with ICOs, as you describe it, it has characteristics of a bubble. Are we in a bubble?
It's hard. I think that all these cryptocurrencies work in bubble and bear cycles, so it goes up and down, up and down. Where we are on the bubble cycle right now, I don't know. I hope it continues to go up. But I also tell people, take your profits. Because as we saw with Ethereum last week, it can go from $400 to $150 within a few days. People get wrecked. They get hurt. So if you made money, double your money, triple your money, don't get greedy. Take your profits and walk away. But again, it comes to the FOMO. At the end of the day, these things are really cool. And all we need is one successful one to come out of all of these bad ones, and that will really like change the game here. And it's going to take a lot of like really bad ones in order for us to get to that good one. And people will go to jail. People are going to lose their money. People are going to lose their houses. You're going to see it all over again. It's going to look bad. You're going to see on the news, they're like bashing it, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, over time, this is a phenomenal technology, and something good will come out of it. Just like we saw, Bitcoin was taken through the trash for years. They made fun of us, and finally now Bitcoin is getting a little bit of the attention it deserves of actual utility.
Okay, you mentioned going to jail. Okay, so Charlie, you've been to jail.
Yeah, I was
okay.
in prison. I joined the lucky club of a few people.
Right.
Bitcoin felon.
Going back to BitInstant, one of the very first companies that got involved in this space. And a lot of people believe that it was a showcase case where they wanted to be an example made because the crypto is a very threatening technology to the status quo.
Sure.
And a lot of people see your case as being kind of emblematic of an overzealous reaction from the banking system. But my question is, you've been down this road, and when people start to do a wink and a nod and say the feds don't take them seriously, your message has got to be maybe a little different, right?
This is what I tell people. In any other industry, you can break things and like ask for forgiveness later. You can break things and then try to make it better. In finance, you can't do that because you're talking about people's money. So I would say like finance and healthcare are the two industries that you can't really break things. I made that mistake. I wanted to disrupt and break and try to play around, and I got in trouble. I made mistakes. In this industry, there's no gray area. There's only black or white. However, the government takes their time. They won't come after you. They're not reactionary like we think. They're watching. They're in the background. They probably have people here. They're probably watching us right now. They're always there, and they're watching. And then what they do is they'll pick someone, they'll investigate that person, and they want to make a big hit. And one of these ICO guys, it could be 3 years down the road. It's not going to happen immediately. That's how the government works. So we think that, I raised $100 million, I got away with it. 6 months later, all good, life is good. Doesn't mean that they're not going to come after you.
It's selective because I worked on Wall Street, and the mantra there was break laws all day long. Well, you're going to change the law.
As long as someone else is breaking more laws than you, then you're okay.
Jamie Dimon has broken many laws. He's committed many frauds. But he's a friend of the regulators. They consider him to be systemically important. As we saw during the HSBC money laundering, drug money laundering, the BIS in Switzerland and the bank and the clearing corporation there, they have a list of banks that are exempt from prosecution. When they get a deferred prosecution, no ICO is on that list.
It's true. When Pribara got fired, some people in his office started talking, and I heard this actually on the radio the other day. This was really pissed me off because I went down the criminal justice system. But what they said was that the SEC sees these Morgan Stanley bankers as good guys. They're good guys who made a mistake. We're not going to prosecute good guys because these SEC prosecutors, these federal prosecutors, they're playing tennis with Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs guys after work every day. They're good guys. They're my friends. These Bitcoin kids, they're the bad guys. That's what it comes down to. Right. That's not fair.
It's not a conspiracy, what you're stating there. What you're stating is that
fact. They
play favorites.
Yeah.
And some of these banks have wiggled their way into the system as systemically vital, that they're beyond prosecution. And John Titus has a film
out there. They jumped to the other side.
All the plenaries.
My prosecutor jumped to the other side. As soon as my case was over, he's now a criminal defense lawyer.
Okay, so now you've kind of reinvented yourself, and you've done a lot in the space, and you are promoting crypto, and it's something that is near and dear to your heart, and of course, and it's a revolutionary technology. And I guess we might not have time actually to talk about what you're doing now, because I want to talk about these other things pretty importantly. All the ICOs, we're talking about ICOs, they're done on Ethereum. How does Ethereum fit into the crypto universe? It's a higher Ether price, even something that fits into the, I'm not sure what that says at all, but how does Ethereum fit into the crypto universe?
So as Bitcoin is more of like a store value, settlement type of situation, more of like wire transfers and keeping money in your account, Ethereum was built as Bitcoin is great at that, but let's do a crypto currency platform where other people can create their own tokens on the platform, easy as 1, 2, 3. And they made it really easy as possible. Ethereum has a lot of attack vectors. Even the other day, there was the Parity wallet. One of the founders of Ethereum, Gavin Wood. There was a big issue, and like $150 million was initially lost, but they were able to recover like $120 million. Shit breaks, because as you add more code, you add more attack vectors. You add the ability for attackers to punch holes in your bubble or whatever.
It gets crufty.
It gets exactly.
Crufty code is bad code.
Bitcoin is a very small code base. It does one thing, and it does one thing great. So even adding any new code to Bitcoin goes through rigorous testing. So Ethereum is really cool. We need a smart contract platform, but there are a lot of better ones now. There are a lot of better ones that do smart contract tokens better than Ethereum. But Ethereum has something that all these other ones don't: market share. All these exchanges. If you want to launch a token, the key to your token success is liquidity, people trading it. And if you want to get your token listed on Poloniex or Bittrex or Kraken or Bitfinex, for them to add a new token, an Ethereum token, takes them 5 minutes. If you want to launch a token on BitShares, it takes them weeks of development work because they've done it already for Ethereum. And Ethereum makes it easy for copy and paste.
Fair enough. Okay, so you mentioned there in terms of the Bitcoin code is tight. It's but additions are easier to make, and of course that brings us to the scaling debate.
Yep.
So where are we in this? So apparently there's been a breakthrough. Some argue it's not as clean cut as others suggest. Where are we on the scaling debate in Bitcoin, Charlie Shrem?
I'm a free market person. I believe that markets are efficient when we allow them to be, but they're not optimal. It's not going to be as fast as human beings we want it to be. We want instant gratification. We want things done now. So yes, the scaling debate took 2 years. However, how many bad solutions came and went? How many things happened that could have effectively...
Why was there a need for a scaling need? What is it?
Bitcoin is growing, and Bitcoin is growing to a point where we need the ability to have more transactions. We need to rival the Visa or MasterCard network. We need to rival SWIFT. We need to scale the right way.
But the other side of the coin says, no, that's not really true. You got to keep it as a store of value, and you're
but that's
mucking
okay
around
too.
with it.
Even the store of value folks think that we need to scale, but they think that it needs to be scaled in a different way. So here we have a market-created compromise. And as we saw the other day, it passed with over 90% consensus. When have we seen any Senate or Congress that have been able to do something with 90% consensus? It's almost never. This took a long time, yes, but it takes a while to get a perfect market solution. I think this was one of the most bullish things that could ever happen to Bitcoin. What if some bad actor came along with $500 billion and said, hey, I want to change Bitcoin to suit my needs? With a lot of money, you could influence a lot of people. But as we saw, a lot of people tried doing that. Craig Wright, all these different companies and Unlimiteds and all that, they tried to influence Bitcoin in their own way. But the market didn't allow them to do it. And the market created the perfect compromise and it passed. Everyone got together. And that's what I see here. It's like this was like perfect governance. This was like leadership governance.
Isn't it just game theory succeeding in the end?
It's game theory will always succeed in the end. Right. And it's perfect market created.
So the Nash equilibrium in this case was the current iteration.
Yep, this is so beautiful.
That's why I've always felt that if you just think of this as a giant game theory experiment, it'll always work out fine.
That's what it is.
You don't need to get too deep into the tech debate as such.
I've said it on your show a million times. Bitcoin is one of the largest socioeconomic experiments we've ever had in the history of the world. And this, if not, solidifies that argument. This is, if anything, if Peter Schiff can say Bitcoin has now no value, blah, 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 but there's a huge value in being able to study one of the largest socioeconomic experiments in the history of humankind.
All right, Charlie Shrem, got to cut it up there. Thanks for being on the Kaiser Report. That's going to do it for this edition of the Kaiser Report. With me, Max Kaiser, and Stacey Herbert. I'd like to thank our guest, Charlie Shrem. If you want to find us on Twitter, it's Kaiser Report. Until next time.
El asesino profesional mata con revólver y son 2 tiros en la cabeza, uno aquí y otro aquí. de arriba de las cejas para acá. Yo soy John Jairo Velázquez Vázquez, alias Popeye, lugarteniente de Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. Fui su asesino de confianza. De mi propia mano he matado a más de 250 personas. Actualmente estoy en libertad. Soy un asesino profesional. Se mata por la paga. Y nosotros también matamos por el amor y por el respeto a Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. A mí me gusta el dolor, porque tengo mucha resiliencia, aguante al dolor. Yo soy una persona demasiadamente religiosa, yo soy un guerrero santo. Yo soy muy respetuoso de Dios, del Espíritu Santo, y porque los respetamos les disparamos 2 veces en la cabeza y listo. Después los descuartizamos y los quemamos. Matar es muy fácil, y colocar bombas. Yo soy experto en terrorismo, y en secuestro, y todo lo que tenga que ver con la delincuencia. Yo simplemente quería matar al lado de Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria.
United States Border Patrol Immigration Inspection. Can I see passports, please?
We have 4 main exits out of the reservation. To the south is Arizona, Sonora. There's a checkpoint. Leaving to the north to Gila Bend, there's another checkpoint. Leaving to go to Casa Grande, there's another checkpoint. And then going, that's north, and then east to Tucson, there's another checkpoint. So within that small space we're completely surrounded. My daughter was working in Tucson, so we're driving back to Tucson, and we got pulled over by a border patrol. And he immediately asked me to state my citizenship, whether I was a U.S. citizen or a Mexican citizen. And I said, I'm an O'odham. I'm an O'odham. You're on my land. Where are you from? So he immediately unclipped his pistol on his side, and he put it at my head. He said, you will say you're a U.S. citizen or a Mexican citizen. And he did that in front of my daughter, and my grandson was little, and both of them started crying, and but he continued to say that he would deport me. He would throw me on the pavement, handcuff me, and deport me. And I said, I'm O'odham. You're on my land. Where are you going to deport me to? If you're going to deport me to Mexico, that's my land too. My community's on that side too. And at that point, another border patrol came and saw what was happening, and it stopped, and we went on our way.
This is the Bleeding Heart newspaper, humanitarian. I think they believe what they want to believe. Yeah, it's really weird.
Were you making coffee?
What? You're making coffee?
Yeah.
Okay. See, like this, they have an article here. It shows the amount of deaths in the desert from 1999 to 2011. There were 2,269 people dying in the desert. Well, that's why you don't try to cross the desert. It's inhospitable. You can't carry enough water. We see more people in the summertime that we rescue than it's crazy.
All right, so here's the drop. Oh, okay. So looks like it's been slashed. It could have been Border Patrol, it could have been hunters. We don't always know. We do have footage of Border Patrol kicking over water gallons that we got at a drop one time. Yeah, I guess there's no way to prove it either way, but the agent that I just talked to said that he knew there was a drop here, so that kind of leads me to believe that they know it's here and might be cutting it because, again, that fits in with their strategy of just making it really difficult for people to cross, their strategy of prevention through deterrence, where basically they want to make crossing as difficult and hard as possible to deter people from doing it, but really this has just resulted in suffering and death on the border and just putting people in a really, really vulnerable situation. When they catch people, they now will put them through Operation Streamline and give them criminal charges and jail time as a consequence for crossing. So they've created this other system to just make it even worse to cross and make, what this also does is it makes getting caught more of an issue. Before you might just get deported back, but now if you're crossing and you get lost, to turn yourself in might mean spending 6 months in a jail or 6 months in a prison. And so the consequences are just higher and it's harder to do because there's more enforcement and it's just really set up to make people suffer.
When I see them out on the humanitarians out on the trails, I'll try to educate them because these are people that are coming from different parts of the country, believing the narrative that the organization is putting out. Oh, you're going to be helping people, you know, survive coming through the desert. When you run in and talk to some of these people, sometimes your head just wants to explode from the mentality of them, the thought process. There's a water drop up here, probably another half mile, which is amazing because that's a long way for them to carry that much water. It's probably in from the truck, probably almost a mile in. And it gets steeper than this to get to it. And that's the farthest I've ever seen them carry water in. I wouldn't mind going up there, but I'm sure there's water sitting there. They usually have water there, Gatorade there, food. And so that's another nice thing, you know, we're out hiking and enjoying the beautiful day, and we'll run into one of their water drops and sit down, and they have individually wrapped meals, you know, with granola bars in it and yogurt or stuff like that, and can of beans, and we'll sit down and have a lunch.
Ranchers really get irate when somebody calls it a no man's land. They believe that their ranch is their ranch, and they don't believe that their federal government is taking responsibility for their security like they would for anywhere else in the country. They live a long ways away a lot of times from everybody else. So response time for the sheriff, for the Border Patrol, or even the military is a problem. Our ex-sheriff, the one that was killed not too long ago, he told ranchers that you're going to have to protect yourself. Do not count on the sheriff. I can't get there in an hour, and if you are in trouble and it's going to take me an hour to get there or half hour to get there, you've got to be able to take care of yourself.
Arizona is atypical as far as most of the states are concerned. We have what they call an open carry law, where you can carry a firearm open anywhere in the state of Arizona.
Hey dear, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing okay. You get a hug?
Yes, you do.
Oh, I'm glad. Thank you.
I always have hugs for you.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
Most people won't do it in highly populated areas like Phoenix or Tucson, but here in the rural areas, like in Tombstone, basically the only people who don't carry a gun that live here are kids in the high school.
Gun?
There was a lot of different gun manufacturers, but this became one of the most popular firearms of its time, the Colt Single Action Army. And this is what I carry. And the only thing I shoot with it now is blanks when I get into a gunfight occasionally. And it's fun. It's fun.
All right, let's try it out right now as loud as I can. Let's hear it for the good guy. Bad guy. Good guy. Good looking guy. That was weird, mister. Are you folks ready for a gunfight? Yeah. I said, are you folks ready for a killing? All right, we're getting started in 45 minutes. All right.
You have to understand that the white man was an invader in their territory out here. This used to be nothing but the Indians, the Apaches especially down here, and of course the Mexicans in southern Arizona at one point was part of Mexico. Cowboys, Indians, the Mexicans, they all just ran back and forth across the border pretty much all the time. I mean, there were organized military on the Mexican side, but for the most part, the borders really didn't exist that much.
Which also was a large part of the problem with the Cowboys gang, is that they would go across the border, steal cattle, and sell them, and vice versa.
Most people think to stand out in this business, you need to be the first one on top of the story, or the person with the loudest voice, or the biggest ratings. In truth, to stand out in the news business, you just need to ask the right questions and demand the right answers. Question more.
فريق الإخبارية السعودية أنا الصحفية يارا صالح مطر. مرتين عدنا التسجيل لأنه هو الفيديو اللي كان فيه طلب شروط من الإرهابيين. هاي الثانوية الشرعية للبنين بالتل بناء على العظم في كتير تغيرات صارت على المكان يمكن. وبعدين كان في فرشة هون كنت أنا قاعد عليها، وبعدين إجا الشيخ تبعهم وأفتى إنه نحن كلنا على الفرن، المفروض كلنا نموت.
صور 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 أحمد صور.
يعني أنا أصبت بالوجه بهذه المنطقة، منطقة الجمجمة، كان هناك كسر، تم تركيب صفيحة، وصبت بالرقبة بشظية وهي ما زالت موجودة حتى اللحظة هنا في منطقة الحلق وخلف البصر السيسائية. ولكن صدقني المراسل الحربي هو إدمان.
هون بنقدر بناخذ اكثر. هي مدخل القصر العدلي، هون كان التفجير، حوالي 50 شهيد واكثر 50 جريح. لاحظنا الرأس الانتحاري موجود مع احد هي، ولكن عملي 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 هو الاساس.
The danger element is that they're not, the people running the drugs are all cartel, and they're not going to give up, and that's where the danger for ranchers is. And, you know, we have to be smart. We're not, the majority of the ranchers aren't going out and catching drug runners.
People on the planet. Episode 20. All right. Here we are. Anyway, we have an interesting show.
lined up. We spent some time planning, and we're going to modify the format to be a little bit more conscious, and we're going to try to get a little bit more done every time. Is going to be the press, media, who can manage our time and get a lot done. I also want to, before we start, introduce you to Mindy. Mindy is here. She's doing. Hi, Mindy. She's always doing the chat room. She's always doing the chat room, and she might interject things from the side. She usually goes through me, but her contributions have been so valuable lately that I'm just going to let her pop in here when she has something to say. So, without any further
psychological and the psychiatric community, which I'm sure Paul has a lot to say about later on too. So when we talk about mainstream media coverage, we inevitably run up against the falseness of the psychiatry narrative. So, you know, they start with that as their premise, and then they go on and they never look into the reality of surveillance or the reality of the use of non-lethal weapons on populations through weapons testing programs or anything else. And so, you know, I just wanted to put that out there as a kind of an opener. What do you guys think?
Okay, that's great. Yeah, the DSM is a document that keeps expanding every year, because they make up new disorders. And they control society by branding the disorders in different ways. For example, pedophilia. Pedophilia was a deviance, a perversion at first. And now it's becoming redefined by the DSM to being a sexual preference. And so what they do with this DSM is they control means in society, and also what they're doing with it now is they're entrapping the TIs into this this community of deceivers, and it's just not fair. In the DSM, there's no legitimate scientific test for any of the disorders. They're simply like checklists or or indications, or you have to use your sense of it. And however, there are pharmaceutical drugs that go along with each of these diagnoses. So it's a beautiful scam. How it works is you get a person in, and you work with them, and psychologists make more money the less healthy you become, the more protracted your visits go, year after year, day after day. And of course, they make kickbacks from the pharmaceutical industry. So it's really a scam. And as somebody who has a degree in psychology, you know, my degree in psychology is not in clinical psychology. It's in consciousness studies, which we'll talk about at the end here. But it's a giant scam. Not that talk therapy can't help people, and not that drugs can't help people, but psychiatry, like science, has been used to trick and manipulate people. And now this is a big thing, because the TIs, there's so many millions of you across the world that they have to be discredited for the rest of the sleeping sheeple to not pay any attention. So they're using psychiatry and the DSM, and apparently it's leaking out through the main.
Choice about dancing with the devil.
California when they found what appeared to be a spark plug encased in a geode. Virginia Maxey, one of 3 discoverers, said at the time that a geologist examined the fossils around the device and dated the device at 500,000 years or older. The geologist was never named, and the current whereabouts of the artifact are unknown. Critics of the claim, Pierre Stromberg and Paul V. Henrich, only have x-rays and an artist's sketch of the artifact to analyze. They think it was a modern spark plug encased in a quick-forming concretion. Why do they keep putting concrete? I haven't ever heard the word concretion in my life, and it is just everywhere in this article. Everywhere. They're saying it again. Quick-forming concretion rather than a geode. But Stromberg and Henrich have said, quote, there is little hard evidence that the original discoverers intend to deceive anyone. So it almost does seem like it's real. Rusty Shackelford says, I bet that spark plug fits a DeLorean. Well, then they need to find it and give it back to the doc because he's missing his spark plug. Those are hard spark plugs to find, y'all. Okay. Here's the last example before we jump into King Tut's daggers brought up by Vern, and then we're going to look into something that I wanted to show you after this. A prehistoric wall near the Bahamas. A wall of rock in large, thick block shapes was found off the coast of the Bahamas in '68. Archaeologist William Donato has conducted multiple dives to investigate the wall and hypothesizes that it is man-made structure some 12,000 to 19,000 years old, built to protect a prehistoric settlement from waves. He found it to be a multi-tiered structure, including prop stones that appeared to be placed there by human hands. He also found what he believes to be anchor stones with rope holes in them. The problem here is that in that age of man, in modern archaeology, they lack the intelligence and the ability to work with tools to form what we are reading about now. So, Dr. Eugene Shin, a retired geologist who worked for the U.S. Geological Survey, he said core rock samples he took show a dip toward deep water. If all of the cores show a dip toward deep water, this would prove the rock formed where it is and did not come from elsewhere later to be transported by humans. His later writings said that all of his samples showed this dip, seeming to prove it is a natural formation. But his earlier studies stated that only 25% of samples showed this dip. And this is another point I wanted to bring up in this. I saved it for the last one because a lot of these archaeologists, they find these magnificent, fascinating finds, right? And they leave us these clues. They tell us 100% of these showed a dip that proves that it's natural. But then people start looking at his data. They start looking at tapes from him. What do they find? They tend to find that there are little tiny facts that change from the beginning to now. Oh, well, a year ago you said that only 20% of those dips were present in each one. So now it's 100. What do you think happens in the interim between this time and that make them change their story? Well, you know just like I do. It almost seems like someone gets in the way. It's like they find some fantastic thing, someone else comes along, and then every one of their findings prove that there were not men, humans, women, and men on the earth earlier than what modern archaeology tells us. This is what has happened in the dinosaur fossil community also. We were going to try to investigate that a while back. A lot of people are getting really mad. The government's coming in and they're intercepting the fossils that people find of dinosaurs. One man found millions of dollars worth of fossils. of Tyrannosaurus rex bones. The government came in, they took his fossils, and now he has no money, and he's in debt because he had to dig those bones out. It cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds, to dig them out, and he couldn't even sell some to recoup his loss. It's generated a very healthy, I don't want to say hatred, we'll just say healthy skepticism of why we see this phenomenon happen around these types of finds that seem to show men were around longer than what we are told. The dinosaur part, I'm sorry. I just love that story, okay? Sorry, guys. Alright, I'm using the wrong keyboard. Can't type. Here we go, next part, let's go. I'm waiting on it to load, sorry. I usually freeze, and as soon as it loads, then I start moving. It's like a Zach Morris thing, if anyone here is not a youngin'. Tutankhamun, the famed boy king of Egypt's 18th dynasty, ruled from about 1333 to 1323 BC and was believed to have been only 19 when he died. In 1922, I didn't know my music was that loud. In 1922, the English archaeologist Howard Carter discovered King Tut's near intact tomb containing the young pharaoh's mummified corpse inside a solid gold coffin, along with other priceless treasures. Nearly a century later, Carter's find remains one of the most celebrated in the history of Egyptology, and a lesser-known artifact from Tut's tomb is making news of its own. A new study has determined that the blade of an ornate dagger found wrapped with the pharaoh's body does not match iron found on Earth, and probably came from a fallen meteorite, or somewhere else. Look at that. Look at that dagger. My, my, my. I had to look at it for a minute. That is King Tutankhamun's dagger. He held it in his hand, right? Yeah. Amazing. In 1925, 3 years after discovering Tutankhamun's largely intact tomb in the Valley of the Kings near Luxor, ancient Thebes, the English archaeologist Howard Carter found 2 daggers hidden in the folds of material wrapped around the pharaoh's mummified body. In the wrappings on Tut's right thigh, he found an iron blade with a decorated gold handle ending in a round crystal knob. Amazing. Amazing. Encased in an ornate gold sheath decorated in a pattern of feathers, lilies, and the head of a jackal. The second blade found near Tut's abdomen was of gold. Sorry, I gotta quit staring at this stuff or I'll stare for hours. I love this kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff I would bring to you guys all the time if my team would let me. I influence them a lot. I work a lot of this into the fold, but I mean, I'm fascinated by this kind of stuff. The iron dagger instantly attracted attention from archaeologists. Iron was still relatively rare in the Bronze Age and was considered even more valuable than gold. There was a lot of gold though, okay? Egypt had a lot of gold. Though ancient Egypt was rich in mineral resources, copper, bronze, gold were in use since 4th millennium BC. The earliest references to iron smelting in the Nile Valley date to much later, during the 1st millennium BC. Most archaeologists agree that full of iron objects they have found from meteorite in Italy, and the Egyptian Museum in Cairo led the new study, which compared the iron of the blade found in Tut's tomb with 11 meteorites that fell within a radius of 1,000 250 miles, mostly of iron plus 10.8% nickel and 0.58% cobalt. The blade matched up closely with the meteorite known as Karga, which was discovered near Marsa Mutra in 2000. And there you can see the resting place of the Boy King. Speechless, man. I'm speechless. RTN Productions? Hey, buddy. In 2009, a separate study found that the oldest Egyptian iron artifacts found to date, 9 small beads dating to around 3200 BC, discovered in a tomb in Gerza, Egypt, were made of meteoric iron, which had been carefully hammered into thin sheets. The authors of the new study hope that their examination of Tut's dagger will provide further insight into the use of meteoric iron in the young pharaoh's time and help archaeologists reconstruct the evolution of metalworking technology in Egypt and the Mediterranean. They want to research this. They want to make leeway in the field. They lie to us a lot, though. I'm not one of those YouTubers who will sit here and say that they're trying to deceive you. Personally, I think they could have been misled themselves. You know what I mean? That they maybe are trying to give you the truth, but they're just stuck in their way of thinking. Yep. Okay, sorry, my moderator needed me for a minute. The thing about what I was showing you here, we have human beings separated by great distance and time, but they seemingly knew each other, in my opinion. It's like they communicated. It's like they witnessed the other's creations. They all made the same type of facilities. They constructed the same style of buildings. They did the same type of metalwork, the same type of art. You know, we've got the same themes in their religious beliefs. In my opinion, in one of my theories, I think that they could have been in communication with each other. That they could have known about each other in the very least, if not talked to each other regularly. It seems like all across a line around the world, right? I want to say below the equator, but you have to go in a little bit of an arch. But you can hit Egypt all the way down to the Aztecs, come back around into the ancient Chinese civilization. We're always being convinced through all this scientific data of what the ancients were like. And I say, though, we should look back at the texts. We should take our data from their own words. Because so often, we go with scientific data, scientific testing, the facts that it brings. But if you remember the presentation I did not that long ago, I was telling you about a huge percentage of every scientific finding is proven wrong so many years later. Sometimes it's a little less than the other. Some last a little longer than most. But it's almost like every bit of fact that one generation has disappears and is replaced by another set. To me, that only leads one thing to understand about their facts. They may not be facts at all. I think that that science, in its unwavering pursuit to explain every small little thing about our world, what has happened is they've stepped too far. They got cocky, and now they think they can explain everything with every little tiny experiment in every type of dating system. But it just doesn't make sense. Not to me. I'm going to start working on another presentation. It's going to stem off of the one I did a couple months ago, where I tried to prove to all of you through the use of circumstantial facts that I had accumulated over a week of work, and I tried to show you that I thought that the Egyptians and the Mayans, or the Aztec, whatever you want to call the civilization in South America, and the civilization in Egypt, and even some of the other ancient civilizations that we are told are separated by significant lumps of time and, of course, a lot of space. I tried to prove to you that they may have known each other. By the end of it, I don't know if I had a single person at all on the same page as me. I was still learning how to give a presentation back then, but I'm going to come at you with it this week. This week, I'm going to give a presentation back, and hopefully I can say it better, and I can actually get at least one person to say, I see his point. I think that dude is on to something. Because if we just open our minds and we let all the information flow, I'm telling y'all, we could rewrite history. I'm telling you, man. So true. Alright, now let's jump into this after show. I hope you liked my presentation, because I love giving them to you. I know they're zany. I know I'm crazy, but I love giving you guys all those crazy presentations. Let's get into this, the after show of the live dive, the Uni Rock Encore right now.
It's time.
Don't have to clap. You don't have to clap for me. Oh, well, oh, thank you. That's right. You guys are an hour into it, and I told you guys I was tired of giving 3, 4, or 5 hour presentations, and you remember I used to. I've chopped my presentations down. I try to keep them within an hour. I've been telling myself I'm going to do 20-minute presentations, but I go to 20, then 30, then 40, then if I don't stop myself, I'd be streaming all night just like I used to every day. So this is the Uni Rock Encore. It's the after show after the presentation. So don't expect anything too fancy. I'm just going to talk to you guys for a little bit before I jump offline. I like to keep in communication with you, my viewers, and I want to build a relationship with you. So if you're new here, don't be scared. Start typing in that box. You know what to do. If you want me to read what you write, all you got to do is type Uni Rock, because it comes up red to me. I'll show you. You can see I got a Uni Rock right there. So when I get done playing this intro, I'm going to scroll up and find the Uni Rocks. You see a few of them now. Go ahead and give me some new ones, guys. I look forward to them. I'm going to read them. I'm going to answer them. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to see what you guys have been up to today, what you want to see this weekend on Unirock, and we're going to get this thing pumping. Let's do this, y'all. Here we go. Hey, cue the intro. Right now. Yes, now. It's time. Sorry, sir. I won't tell you what to do. Will you please cue the intro? Is that good enough? Thank you. I swear I'm going to fire your ass. Yes, my mic's off. I'm going to fire you again. I saw that concretion, RTN. Oh yeah. I saw that. You think I'm not paying attention just because I turned on the intro. I saw it. It's the after show, y'all. Hashtag Rock Encore on Unirock. Let's do this. Hit it. Da-na. Sorry, I love that music. All right, guys. As always, thank you for watching my crazy presentations. I really, truly mean it. You guys rock. I do want to bring up my live control panel really quick. I'm already doing it, actually, because I just want to make sure that when this video ends, it's going to be saved on my channel. I'm doing that right now, because I did an update at the beginning of this video where I told everybody what I've been doing for the last 2 days. So I'm going to tell you guys one more time, because I can see we got a lot of new viewers, and we've got, well, we have some of you guys have been around the whole time, but we got some new viewers. So let me just tell you what I've been doing. So for the last 2 days, I've been ordering another workstation, but this one is no holds bars. Nope. No, but Uni can't talk. It's no holds barred, okay? I ordered a top-of-the-line workstation. I'm finally going to be able to pump out everything I want to do. I've got a graphics card that could handle all of my streaming itself. It's that powerful. It's brand new. Just came out. And I got 2 of them in the same PC. So one graphics card is going to handle the stream, the sound effects, the music, the Unistream screen, the chat. Everything you're seeing now will be handled by one graphics card, and it'll run so lightning fast. It's going to be crazy. Then I've got another same graphics card, just as good, just as powerful, in case I want to stream video games, in case I want to stream high-end 3D software. So I could now, after this PC gets here, it's paid for, it's coming, it's on the way, it's in the mail. It's going to take like 3 to 7 days. Well, regular days. It's going to take like 3 to 5 business days. So I'm going to say 3 to 5 regular, or 3 to 7 regular days. But anyway, when that sucker gets here, guys, it's on like donkey. It's on like Unirock Kong. You know what I'm saying? We're going to be doing this thing. So that's one thing I did, and it took a while, and I'm sorry, but I had to get it done. So yeah, we didn't make as many produced videos to make sure that got finished, because it's going to make up for itself. It takes me an hour to render a 20-minute video because of so many overlays, underlays, relays, double lays, triple lays. Ow, that hurts my ears. Mute. Sorry about that. I always forget to mute that thing. So anyway, though, so what I was saying was now my render time is going to be like a minute. So I can finally make a video, push render, a minute later, upload it to YouTube. It's going to cut my work time down so much that I'm going to be able to double my video output. That is just too good, too awesome. So, point number 2, what else I do? I made another channel. if I'm going to save myself all that time, I got to do something else to keep me busy. So I'm going to have a streaming radio station. It's already been made and it already streamed today for the first time. It worked really good too. So I'm going to have to do something with my PC that I'm using right now, and it's set up to stream, and it can handle a lot. So we're going to go ahead, and the PC that I'm on now is going to start pumping out on this channel. It's another new channel. I'm going to drop the link. Unirock Radio. It's going to be where we play music, and I'm going to run this stream a lot. When I'm making videos, oh, let me type Unirock Radio. When I'm making videos, when I'm doing other things, if I'm going to go in town for a couple hours, I'm going to play music on Unirock Radio. Of course, it's going to be those songs by artists that are just so good. And most all of them you don't hear on the radio. So, let's have an underground radio station where you can hear the best songs by all the artists you love that you'll never hear when you turn on your radio. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think the songs are better than the songs you hear on the radio, personally. And I know it seems pretty empty here, but damn, we've already got 15 subscribers. We're really growing already. Great. So I hope to see you guys in those streams, because I'm going to be DJing. I'm going to be over there giving live shows, doing all that stuff there too. So hope to see you over on Unirock Radio. And of course, you guys already know about Unirock live streams, where we put all the old live stream links so you can see them all you want. And Unirock Games, where we find all the game links right there for you. Hey. Okay, sorry. I think my kid's going nuts up there or something. He shouldn't be out of bed. All right, here we go. Let's hit the chat, because I want to talk to my peeps before I jump offline. So let me scroll up, find those Unirock signs. All right, so, oh, no, wait, there's some right there too. All right, Unirock concretion. Oh, I hate that word. That is the bane of my stream existence. Unirock, please look into NASA lies. Oh, my friend, I will some more. In fact, I probably have 20 videos on my channel. You know what? I actually have 2 videos named NASA Lies, and I have a video named Space Bubbles. I've got videos on the rovers. I've got videos on all these things. Head on into my channel, take a look if you will, my friend. Tell me what you think, leave me a comment, and I will do more videos on this for you, because I've got the material for you. I've still been collecting material the last 2 days while I've been working on getting the new PC here and getting Unirock Radio up and running. Every side project I do not let it take time away from the original channel, ever. I've done this with 2 other channels. Adding 1 more is not going to affect it either. In fact, Uni Rach is going to be running the radio station a lot herself. But, JJ Youngblood, for you, my dude, I got it. One of my upcoming videos will be subject for you. Thanks for shouting that out. Also, I'm doing another video on the Bloodline for my hardcore dedicated viewer, Michelle. You know who you are, Michelle. I'm doing another Bloodline video just for you, because I want to make sure I hit the topics you want. Being one of my Patreon pledgers, you get what you want when you pledge to me on Patreon. It's a fact. All you got to do is email me. Yeah, I do get busy. Michelle's had to stay on me. I've given her a few presentations on it. You haven't even asked lately, but I've got one for you. I've been working really... You just wait till this comes out, Michelle. You just wait. Okay, let's go on the slide down and see if we... Oh, there's another one. Unirock, seriously, love the history stuff too. RTN, my bro, me too. I'm glad you're here, my friend. And yeah, I'm going to start doing a lot more stuff. You know those old videos I did, Ancient Legends. This new show I'm going to do, History That Does Not Make Sense. I think you're going to love it, man, because I've already got so many episodes set up. I just got to record them and put them out. It's all ready. It's just, I just got to sit down and knock this out. But it's, that one is loud. That song is loud. But yeah, my friend, I love the history stuff, and I love history that is contested. I love history where one person's saying, or one group is saying, no, it happened this way, because that's impossible, and the other part's saying, it don't matter if it's impossible, that's what happened. That's the history I like to bring you, and that's what I'm going to bring you in my new show, History That Does Not Make Sense. So if you see that, give it a click, give it a share, do what you can do. Pro Gamer 1306, what's up, dude? Aaron is here. Old Earther 2000, my dude. Jamie Winters, Steph says she's completely locked out of the chat. Steph is? That should not be true. That should not be happening. I will check it and make sure. Steph tried to, on a PC, hold in the shift button and refresh. That will completely reload a channel. On a phone, completely shut down the phone and restart it if you still can't get in, because we need you in here, Steph. I promise you, you are not blocked. I give you my word on that. If you did get blocked by someone, I can see what the moderators do. I'll go check it out after this and make sure nobody clicked you. Michelle Signs, congrats Unirock. Thanks, my friend. Jonar Games, Unirock, beware of the rising AI though. Don't invite the best into your home. Don't worry, my friend. I'm in control of my PCs. No worries. I'm really good with PCs, my friend. No worries there. Shannon says, hook me up with your old video card, Unirock. I will in the future, because I can't take the video. The one I'm using, this PC is it's one of those all-in-one, it looks like a big TV, but it's really a souped-up PC. But I can't remove the parts, and when I do get a new video card and replace one of the old ones, I'll do a giveaway or something, because I need to do something more for you guys. I've been working on some things, but that would be a good idea. Dead GPK, gonna use it at work. Unirock Music. I hope you do, my friend, because I'm serious. And it's gonna be that constant chat room that's always open to find people that like the show. You'll be able to find like-minded people like yourself over chatting at Unirock Radio in the future, I hope. Because I went in and looked and found on YouTube months ago that there were no rock stations. And I'm not having just a rock station. We're going to be a lot of rock in the beginning. We're going to add in other genres as we go. But there wasn't a lot of rock stations on YouTube. And I could find none streaming when I looked. So we're going to be the rock station on YouTube. I'm going to tell you right now. We've already got, you guys know, we've got like Sublime. We've got like Nirvana, Green Day. Plus, we've got newer stuff. We've got Avenged Sevenfold and System of a Down. We've got all kinds of the new bands. We got a new band called Slot Rust. They're really good, really artistic, kind of punk, but not really. More like college rock that's been warped out in a way. I've got a lot of stuff for you guys, man. And I'm just trying to keep on throwing it out there. Content, content, content. YouTube said to the content creators, we need creators who are going to put out constant content. Some of us rose to the call. I'm one of them. It's all I do, baby. All I do. Put out content. 4 channels to do the 4 things I like to do. Unirock, the live streams, the games, and the radio. And it's all coming at you. It's all for you guys. I hope you enjoy it. RTN just subbed. Thanks, RTN. I appreciate you, my friend. I know, guys, I know. I haven't been talking about the t-shirts because I knew people would get mad and call me a liar or something. But the t-shirts were junk. I shouldn't have ordered them from an actual neighbor. I should have got them from a company, and I'm on it. I swear I'll be hitting you with them soon. I can't say a date. I can't say a time. It took me forever to get them out, and then when I did get them, they were junk. So instead of coming and just blabbing about it, don't worry, I've got this set. It's all happening soon. We're going to have it all released at once, all of the Unirock accessories. You can get your own Unirock headbands. The Unirock gloves, the Unirock stuff. We got it all. It's getting set up for you very soon. I'm not going to sit and talk about it like I used to, though, because it's way harder than I thought it would be. Way harder. I'm not even kidding. Way more expensive and way harder than I thought it would be. Hey, Roro, where have you been, my friend? I'm glad to see you. I watched a video. Everything you've been taught about ancient history is a lie, part 1 and 2. They were about 2 hours, a lot of evidence that ancient history didn't happen the way we were taught. I'm starting to find this out too. And that is the foundation of my new show, History That Doesn't Make Sense. So hopefully you guys will like it. Linder dolls. Dude, that's a great idea. Dude, RTN, that is a freaking good idea. Hey, Mr. Nuts, I'll sell Unirock rocks too. I'll paint a Unirock sign on a rock if you want. Sell it for a penny. Just for you, my friend. I'll figure it out. Oh no, the shirts are gonna be, you're gonna be able to buy these kind of shirts too. Like seriously, I've been sitting down with a few of my friends who are actually professional about this, and they've been plugging me into the different websites that I can use to get affordably started doing this, especially now that the channel's growing like it is. Alright guys, I got to the end of the comments, and I'm so glad you guys came and saw me tonight. I could not spend enough time with you. Every time I do a show, I want to keep going. I want to keep talking to you. But I have to get to work. I've got so much to do. I really do. I've got to get the new show going. You know, History That Doesn't Make Sense. I've got to get the new channel going, Unirock Radio. I've got to get everything prepared to take everything off this PC and mirror it to my other one. And I got to keep pumping out videos through all of it so that I can keep this channel growing and we can keep reaching for the stars. Because I'm so grateful for where we are at. But in the craziest way, every time we gain a subscriber, I'm ready to work my ass off to gain the next one. So I got to go do that work, y'all. But you all know, and I say it all the time, thank you to my Patreon pledgers. Thank you to the people that donate at the top bar. The couple donations that have come in the last 3 or 4 days with the PayPal link have saved our buns lately. Because, yeah, it takes a lot of money to upgrade PCs and all that. And a lot of it's coming out of our pockets, and we're just feeling like, look, the channel's doing good, so we're going to recoup it, and we have all faith in it, no worries. But it is one of those things we got to scrape and get by and do our thing to do it. And you guys have been the most supportive group of subscribers that I've found over the entirety of YouTube. And I'm just lucky that I can say that. A lot of channels can. A lot of channels have a constant fight with subscribers and trolls and stuff like that. You know, everything's just getting better, man. Everything's just going the right way, and I can't thank you enough. So I'm going to get pumping these videos out, because that's what I need to do to keep this going. And I will be in with I'm going to be live streaming more often for the next week, because I had a big chunk where I put out 3 to 5 produced videos a day for a while there. So now it's time to go back to the live streams. Still going to produce the videos, just more live streams, less videos. Till next time, be nice in the comments, y'all. Those are people on the other side. You got to be kind. You just never be afraid to speak your mind. And just like always, I will see you in just a few. Head on over to those channels on my sidebar. If you want to see us grow, give them a subscription, share something, do whatever you got to do. And you know everything you do for us, I appreciate. See you soon.
Hi everybody, Anderson, South Carolina, August 3rd, 2017. I come out late in the afternoon. The sky has never been so brilliantly white. And as the evening progressed, the sky got more and more surreal and the air got more and more toxic. And I'm not going to lie to you, I am really struggling. This reality that we are living, antennas, cell phones, Gwen towers litter the landscape here. But virtually every day, it's a nightmare. Between the frequencies and what's taking place in the sky. I go to this track, and these kids are out playing football. And they're playing football as they're getting sprayed upon. The parents are sitting in their cars, in their air-conditioned cars, and I look at them and they're all on their cell phones, not even paying attention to their kids. Jesus. The disconnect between human beings, but the disconnect of the human being and nature, it's frightening. It's frightening. I'm filming this. People are walking by me. They see I'm filming. Do they even look up at what I am filming? No. No. I feel lately like I'm trapped in a horror show alone. I need to hear from you guys. I need to hear how you are doing, how you are feeling physically, but also emotionally and mentally and spiritually. How are you dealing with this reality? When I know that so many of you are surrounded by people who either don't care or, well, they can't quite see what is so blatant, what is right smack in their face. Now, whatever that gray stuff was tonight, well, it made me sick. I have never experienced it so toxic here as I did tonight. Something was very off tonight, but it was obvious, and it seemed as if I was alone in it. People just walking by, business as usual. Though I do watch people. I watch them get out of their cars and walk into stores, and there are so many people who just don't have any life in them. They look like they're really struggling. But all of that gray stuff, boy, I felt sick after being in this for however long I was. I have still a headache. The frequencies, my head just feels like it's a pressured vice or something. But my nose, my eyes, my throat still sore. And I came home, it felt like I had a paste on my skin, and my skin was like tingling, burning, tingling. Look at that sky. Look at that. I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know what to do anymore. It's hard managing all of this alone. I mean, it couldn't have been more obvious that something was drastically wrong tonight. I really do. I do feel like I'm trapped in a horror show alone. I'm driving around, I'm listening to these talk shows, radio talk shows, Mark Levin, Larry Elder, they're all talking about his successes and he fighting the deep state, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and more evidence of the Clinton crimes. My God, we have been listening to this kind of information for how long? All of these people committing crimes that they'll never, ever be held accountable for. It just goes on and on. I can't even go there anymore. I'm repulsed. I am just so repulsed by all of these quote-unquote leaders and politicians and the media and this country. I'm so sick of it. I see so many people posting their videos on Trump and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and meanwhile we're being exterminated every day. More and more people are dying. More and more people are getting sick. And this will only get worse because we know Trump isn't going to be doing anything about this. The most dangerous things we face, very few people are talking about. These pulsating frequencies. I really want to hear from you guys who are sensitive to the frequencies, because more and more days now I'm having great difficulty functioning, great difficulty thinking clearly, and it's taking a lot of effort to focus and concentrate. It takes a lot of effort to even just talk. So, sorry for sounding so down, but, well, that's me. I'm being honest. Let me know how you guys are handling all of this. My God, how do you get through this when you don't have any support? It is a horror show.
Hi everybody, I'm Jeff from Missouri Wind and Solar, and this is how to cut your electric bill, central air conditioning. I picked up a product the other day, well actually a year ago, and I've been using it for a year at the store, and it works perfectly. It does just what the manufacturer says. And this is called Mist and Save. Now what it is a water misting system for your central air conditioner, and it brings down the condenser coil pressure, cools it off, helps your air conditioner a lot more efficient. Now they say you save 25 to 35% on your cooling bill, and that's pretty close, and that's about what we saved. Plus it'll lengthen the air conditioner's life. Say your air conditioner runs like 9 hours a day. As soon as you hook up this mister, it'll run about 6 hours a day. It'll cool your house faster. I'll explain to this how this works. There's a set of misters that go all the way around this, just water misters. And what they actually do is they cool the air before it enters into the air conditioner. which of course makes it much easier for the air conditioner to run and to cool down your house. And I'm going to put this thing together to kind of give you a little deal how it works. When the air conditioner turns on, this flap comes up, turns the water on. When the air conditioner shuts off, this flap shuts down and shuts the water off. How much water does this use a day? About a gallon of water a day, which is literally nothing. That's about what it costs to flush your toilet once a day. Now, I'm going to show you how to hook this up, and it's very easy. You don't need no tools, just maybe a pair of scissors. Now, that's what the Mist and Save comes with, just everything you need to hook it up. You just need a garden hose or a hose bib somewhere close to run this. So people say, well, you get calcium buildup on the condenser coils. That's never happened to us. This also comes with a calcium filter, and this filter is good for like 6 months. It'll remove all the dirt and junk and calcium out of the water before it ever enters the misters and plugs up these little tubes. So I'm going to get this put together and show you how it works. The central air just turned on, and that flipper came up, which allows the water to start running. Okay, I don't have a hose bib out here, but I'm going to get one. Anyway, I'm just hooking this up to my garden hose. So, pretty much, once you've got this hooked up to your hose bib, this is just a splitter, and you can still keep using your outdoor faucet. There we go. Okay, now there's no tools required to put this together. This comes with a small tube of glue, and I glued down this flipper about a half hour ago, and it is stuck. So now I'm going to get the nozzles put up. Okay, now it comes with this long hose, and this will go over to the calcium filter. That's quite a long piece of hose. It's probably 20 feet anyway. It's pretty simple. This white is the in. You don't want to push it in too far. There we go. Simple. Now, there are 3 nozzles with this and all the zip ties. And each one of these misters tubes in them. And what you want to make sure...
In Camp's political... There are elections which in the... Right?
Maduro himself, a very exclusive club, including Mr. Mugabe, Bashar al-Assad.
What about...
This is one of the most despicable ways of conduct in the history of the World Wrestling Federation. In the history. Andre, unconscious. Get the man.
What a moment in professional sports. Now, let me ask Let me ask you this question. Just described as one of the most despicable moments in the history of professional wrestling. 3 men were involved.
Bill, would you want to be in their shoes if you were? Would you want to be in their shoes, Bill?
Hey, Lou, I can count back a few years. You led me to do a few despicable.
Well, you know something. Maybe I've seen the light now, Ken.
Here's a man that.
Well, you can stay right with that man, and maybe now I've seen the light.
Here, are you?
Well, let me tell you something, Bill. Excuse me. Maybe it's because I've been involved with Cyndi Lauper and Dave with this multiple sclerosis thing that's changed me to see the light. But I want to tell you something now. To me, it is despicable. To me, it's disgusting. To me, it's disgraceful. And I'm going to give credit, perhaps, to David Wolf and Cyndi Lauper for helping me see the light, and Hulk Hogan coming at my side saying, Captain, you're doing a lot for it. Maybe that has helped me to change.
Ken, what are some of the things he asked you to do over the years?
Some real low-life things.
Well,
really?
Like
what?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, look at the man.
Well, can you recall specifically any of the things?
The height of intelligence?
Yeah, Pedro Morales, the Intercontinental Belt. He had a match with me. I stuffed the belt down his throat and up somewhere else. A few things. I beat the living legend, beat the greatness out of the living legend, Bruno Sammartino, under Lou Albano's guidance.
Man, hallucinating.
There's, yeah, hallucinating, Lou. You knew that I'm the man that could get the job done. That's why you came to me.
Bill, I did manage
Right,
Ken
true or
Matera,
false, Lou?
feeling that he
You
was
know
a great
how
athlete.
great of an athlete I am.
Well, I'll
how
give
great
you a
of
chance.
champion
Yes,
I've
he's an athlete, but I want to tell you something now. He's also a great, I would call him a liar, as far as stating the fact. He was a great athlete and is a great athlete. But what I'm saying is, Bill, he's bringing up the past, which is already gone. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about right now.
Let's talk
You're
about
talking
the
about
present.
what
Let's
you
talk
did.
about Ken Patera, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and the only true giant in professional wrestling today, Big John Studd. That's who we should be talking about.
Are you proud of what you did to
We're going to
Andre?
continue talking about right now.
Are you proud of what you did to Andre?
Yes.
Well,
Andrea, let's say, Andrea, when we had the man down on his back, he was that tall.
Well, I guess 3-on-1, it wouldn't take, 3-on-1.
He was a midget.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the three of you with all together as a combined
it wasn't
effort.
the three of us. It was John Studd and Ken Patera.
Yeah, well,
and neither
a couple
one
of
of
you
us could have done it at any one time by ourselves.
Whose idea was that to?
It was mine.
Probably Bobby Heenan. Yeah, he takes great
Once
credit.
again,
He's a fine humanitarian. Yeah.
Tremendous concept.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of myself. See, you have to answer to a lot of people, probably, in your life.
No, I don't have to answer to anybody.
Well, I don't know how your life goes. I could care less. I don't know who you answer to. Only thing I care about is once a day my stockbroker calls me and tells me I'm doing fine. That's all I care about. As long as this man's happy and this man's happy and I'm happy, I'm happy. It's that simple.
A couple other things that people wanted me to ask you guys about, and that is to talk a little bit about what happens in a steel cage match, what that is.
It's hell.
Well, explain what it is and kind of describe it.
Well, they usually put something like that together when two people like, say, Andre the Giant and John Studd, say they've had it out, and they've had it out, but there's never been a clear-cut decision. And this feud has gone on and on. Well, they figured the one thing the people will like, and the only way to settle this is put them in a steel cage, padlock that door, and the best man wins. That's the only way to settle it. And that's usually what happens. Only one usually walks out of there, and the other one's carried out. They call AAA, and it's all over with.
It's one of the most dangerous encounters, Bill, because you've got a 12-foot steel cage around that ring, and if you look at playground fence, you can notice the little edges on the wire.
Yeah, that's what you said.
And every time you run, I've been involved in several, and every time you run a man's face against that, it's bound to lacerate him and cut him up, and the idea is to get over the top of the steel cage or through the door. It's one of the most dangerous matches in professional wrestling.
You injured the medulla of your oblongata several years ago.
I've had some trouble because of steel cage matches.
What would you say over the history, not just 1985 now, but the history of professional wrestling, including now, what have some of the great rivalries been?
Oh, I would say, come off the top of my mind, would be Killer Kowalski and Yukon Eric.
Yukon Eric?
Yeah, in the late 50s. He tore off, Killer Kowalski tore off Yukon Eric's ear.
Really?
Tore it right off his head. And that thing went on for years. And
why are you laughing? I would say John Studd and Ken Patera with Andre the Giant. That's got to go down in the legend. I wouldn't want to be in that place, Bill.
You know, Lou, I'm appalled by the fact, I've just been thinking here, and I can't believe that you're answering to Cyndi Lauper and David Wolf and others.
Can I explain to you why?
You used to be a man that stood by himself.
Yes, can I explain why, Bill? Just 1 minute.
Why are you answering to these people
Well,
now?
I'll tell you why I'm answering to them. Perhaps, I've seen the light. I'm not trying to go down as a goody-goody guy, but being involved with David Wolf and with Cyndi Lauper, and also having Hulk Hogan at Studio 54 come to my side and say, Captain, thanks for trying to help raise money for MS. It made me feel good. It made me feel that all that I've done in the past was wrong. And maybe the association with the Ken Pateras and the Bobby Heenans and the John Studds and the Johnny Valiants and the so forth and the Orndorffs, maybe that was wrong. When I needed help in Madison Square Garden before 28,917 people, Dick Clark presenting with Cyndi Lauper, giving me an award for being a humanitarian and raising money for MS, who came to my side? A little 105-pound girl, Cyndi Lauper, dove for me as Roddy Piper kicked her off, and this man next to me, 148 pounds soaking wet, tried to help me. The only to him was slammed and pulled muscles from his spine.
What happened? Someone hit you over the head?
Yes, the award that I was given. I was given an award by Cyndi Lauper, a gold record and a platinum record. Roddy Piper had the audacity to come into that ring, take the award, claiming that he made the career of Cyndi Lauper, hit me over the head. I was hurt severely, and as I did that, he came down and started kicking me and stomping me. Cyndi Lauper, a 105-pound woman, came to my aid, and this fella, 148 pounds. Where were the Ken Pateras? Where were the John Studds? Where were all my friends? Where were they?
We happen to be on the West Coast.
No one around. But who came to my aid right here? So yes, I've had a change of heart.
Well, if you want to be on American Bandstand, that's your business.
Well, let's
I mean, I could care less. What's this? Make a record, make it or break it?
No, well, I'll tell you, I don't want to be involved with you. That's one thing, Bobby Heenan.
Well, that's fine. You know, I used to admire you. I used to thought you were a man that had your own direction planned. You used to do your own thinking. But now it seems like you want to be on Bandstand.
No.
You like to be around Cyndi Lauper, Mr. Wolf. You like the recognition. You like those humanoids.
Yeah, yes, I do.
Those 8 to 5 White Sox lifers out there, those clock punchers. You like them cheering you on. It seems like maybe you need that in life.
Yeah, it took a Cyndi Lauper and a David Wolf, and when Hulk Hogan walked up and said, he said, big man, I never trusted you before. He said, you want to know something? He said, right now, he said, I see you trying. Well, you know something? That kind of made me open my eyes and look at the light. I'm proud to say I'm a friend.
Well, this is
if you
like
wanna call
Queen
it
for a day.
that,
Give
of
him
the
a
man.
refrigerator.
That's great, man.
I want to ask Big John a question. How do you feel about Hulk Hogan?
Yeah, he's a good world's champion. He's pretty competitive. I've had an opportunity to wrestle him a few times, and I gave him a run for his money. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, I can beat him. And but he's big and he's strong. He's very competitive, and it's a good match. It's a real good match. And,
See, being the world's champion, you have something to your advantage. All he's got to do is just